Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. Have a very interesting show for you today, folks. Not only do we have Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals coming up at the end of the program, but we have a very interesting guest today. We have a distinguished guest with us today, and Dr. Rita Ali, who is a distinguished Philadelphia socialite and among the few African-American women boxing PR professionals who hobnobbed with such famous fighters as Muhammad Ali, Michael Spinks, and Mike Tyson, who, by the way, is her son-in-law. Then mysteriously all came crashing down when she, along with her daughter and son, were wrongly convicted and imprisoned for allegedly funneling public funds through a partnership between the Sister Clara Muhammad School and the Community College of Philadelphia. Now, the indictment alleged that the defendants profited off a ghost employee scam to provide adult education class. To quote Dr. Ali, she says, "I was convicted and sentenced 3 times on virtually the same charges for a crime I didn't commit, which amounted to triple jeopardy." We'll find out more about that here later in the program. Now, she's the author of a book that I had the pleasure of sitting down and reading over the weekend called Triple Jeopardy, 3 Strikes But Not Out. She's also a life coach and founder of the nonprofit We Too Matter, which we'll also sit down and talk about today, which provides resources for previously incarcerated women. Let's welcome in to True Crime Tuesday, Dr. Rita Ali. Dr. Ali, thank you so much for being with us today.
Tim, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for the pleasure of joining and being a part of your show today.
Well, it's my pleasure indeed, Dr. Ali. I want to start out by talking about, first of all, just your illustrious past. You have such an amazing past. You know, I think a lot of us kind of wish we could have met some of the people you've met, lived through some of the things you've lived through. I got to tell you, I almost wanted to show you, just having read your book, I wanted to show you one of the things I have here in my home, in my studio. If I could tell you on air real quick, I almost want.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
I almost
here.
want to boast. I have there's an artist by the name of Neil Adams who drew a Treasury edition of Superman versus Muhammad Ali. I don't know if you remember the comic, the huge comic.
Kind of. I'm getting like a little visual here.
Yeah. And Muhammad Ali was one of my heroes growing up. And my uncle had brief meetings with him, just in passing. He was a radio personality out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So he met him in passing a few times and loved Ali.
Yeah.
As most people who met Ali did.
Yes, that's right.
And this was one of my most treasured comics that I had growing up. And this wasn't a regular comic. It was a huge size comic. Now, and when you folded out the back cover of the comic, Neil Adams had drawn, it was like if you remember the classic Rocky pose of both of them going to punch each other, both Apollo Creed and Rocky.
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay. So it was Muhammad Ali going to punch Superman going to punch Muhammad Ali, right?
Yeah.
But in the crowd, what Neil Adams had done is he had drawn famous dignitaries in the crowd. And in the inside, there was a legend telling you who the famous people were. So I met Neil Adams a couple of years ago. He's passed away since. A couple of years ago, I met Neil Adams, and he had what's called a giclée, or a print of that famous cover. And I bought that giclée, and I had him sign it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And I
do remember that. Like, I'm getting a visual of it. Like, I didn't save it or anything like that. It was so much out on Ali, but it's just amazing that now this visual that you're bringing back, it brings back the memory of that feature. And like so many other things associated with Muhammad Ali, it's just such an amazing part of history, and all those connecting forces, and even media accounts and people accounts. Like, I can't go anywhere in the world and people know of my association with Ali, and someone has a Muhammad Ali story. It's always, and it's whether it's a personal encounter with them, or an encounter that someone they are associated with or knew of Ali, the people have the same enthusiastic and warm feelings about this giant of an image and an icon in our history. And he was just unique, amazing, funny. Loved playing pranks on people, children. No one was exempt from Ali's. Just no one was it. Everybody could get teased by him. He loved to tease, and he was just such a great person, just in general. Like my son-in-law, Mike Tyson. Ali's one of the few people that I've ever been around that has that level of charisma or personal magnitude or appeal that stars. Whenever you're around them at something public, genuinely, it's I shouldn't say whatever, but if it's a basketball game or if it's like Mike's one-man show or Ali being honored or something that is open to the public, there's always a bunch of people that are celebrities. That Ali is a celebrity and Mike is a celebrity to the celebrities. It's like just such an amazing dynamic that both of them carry. And the other two men that I would associate, and people are probably going to find this a little strange, that had the same type of impact and I see with the public that people are just awed with them, almost like cult-like admiration, is Bill Clinton and Donald Trump.
I see that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Like these people have charisma, whether you like Bill Clinton, whether you hate him, whether you like Donald Trump, whether you hate him. Same with maybe Ali, and maybe there were a few people that didn't like Ali and Mike, but it doesn't matter, that draw that they have. And it's almost like cult-like. Yes. I've seen people cry, and just because Mike walked into Poland, it was like crazy. It's just, anyway, so I'm going on and on, but
no, you're absolutely right. I think you nailed it there. With those four men, you're absolutely correct. You do mention in the book, something that my uncle Robert had said as well when it came to Bill Clinton. You mentioned it in the book as well, that he had this charisma that he oozed this charisma, made you feel like he connected to you just immediately, like he almost reached inside you and connected with you. And I believe that Donald Trump has that same charisma that connects with you like that as well. And and as a young child, saying that, and I'm not blowing smoke when I say this, Ali had that same charisma, and when I look at it as an adult, it's hard for me to believe that at one time there was a generation that reviled Muhammad Ali for changing his religion. That to me, and changing his name, to me, it's the silliest thing in the world. That someone decided, well, I this is what I believe, and this is something that it just I choose to believe this, and people went, well, I don't like you for that. To me, it just seems silly. It was silly.
More than the general public, I believe that was perpetuated by the government because they didn't like the idea that Ali was against the Vietnam War. I think it had more to do with that than it was actually a persecution of the religion.
Sure.
I think that they could use that because Islam wasn't a prevalent religion in America. I think they could use that and conflict the two things that conflate them. I'm sorry, not conflict, but conflate them together as though they represented one negative attitude against America, which neither was true. So, but the people in general did not embrace that. Right. It was the government that tried to take Ali down, and I remember during that period, it was a difficult time for him. I know his wife at the time that he was married to, Belinda. We were Muslims. We were both. And one of the things that bothered me the most about, her name is Khalila, but her Muslim attribute is Khalila, but her name was Belinda when they got married. And just the toll that it took on her and the children, to go from your husband being the most loved and admired person to now being basically a convicted felon, or, being persecuted. I mean, if you just think about, and it's hard for the average person to imagine it, because I couldn't imagine that feeling of what it feels like to see on paper the United States of America, the country you love, versus you.
Yeah.
It's such a debilitating, and I know for Ali, who he did love America. Ali loved the world, but I know that took a toll on how he felt in terms of, even though he persevered past it and he still did his fast talking and whatever like that, but it also took an economic toll on the family. It took an economic toll on him in terms of not letting him fight for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it also took a toll on him physically. The fights that he had after that 3 year being off, that wasn't quite the same Ali. It's just that he was such a phenomenal boxer. Like, he mastered the art of boxing so much. So he made it theatrical. Like you're watching a performance on stage. I mean, it's like Shakespearean in terms of athletics, like a Shakespearean play or drama that you're watching. So for him to be taken down a notch because of the layoff of the 3 years, it did take somewhat of his skills and diminish them somewhat. And then age too. Like 3 years is a long time in boxing and in sports in general.
Yep.
But if he hadn't been such an amazing athlete, he couldn't even have come back after 3 years and still accomplish what he did. And so I know him that he was just grateful to still be able to talk his trash and mess with people in the ring and have that type of influence. And when you're going back to like some of the hatred, I remember the one woman that said to him one time, she was backstage and she said to him she said something to do his attention when everybody's walking through, the entourage is all walking through trying to either get out or get into the arena. And Ali thanked her for being there. And she said she wasn't there to support him. She was there to see this cocky nigger, something like that. Her word, not mine.
Yeah.
His A whooped. And Ali said, that's okay. He still bought a ticket. And so like, he was just so smooth. Like, so I just, he was a career maker for me in terms of, I would have never had the type of interest that I had, if it wouldn't be for Ali. I mean, he was Mr. Boxing. He was Mr. World known. Like at that time, I think he was among the top 5 known people in the world. I remember some of the entourage coming back from Zaire, and this is like in the early 70s or something like that, maybe mid 70s, and saying how they didn't know who Nixon was. Some of just the regular people, but they knew the name Muhammad Ali.
Oh,
and
yes.
It's just amazing. I mean, I don't know if I'm elaborating too much about this, but
no. You know what I find amazing in the book, Dr. Ali, you talk about how even as a young girl, you knew it almost supernaturally. You knew that you were at one time going to have, and I'm not talking about a love relationship or a sexual relationship, but you're going to have a relationship with this man.
I know, but that, like,
in one way or
still
another.
to today, like, I didn't even know what an epiphany meant at the time.
Yeah.
I just knew that I'm sitting there with my dad. He's watching TV, but I'm reading a book. And I think it had something to do with the school project or whatever, but I'm reading a book. And he's on the sofa and I'm across from him on a chair by the window of our home. And I hear this rhythmic just utterance coming, just like bursting from the TV. And it was the sound. Yeah. And I'm going to, it distracted me. And more than a distraction, it attracted me. And I stopped because I was never interested in boxing or fights. I hated it, really, because my father would watch the Friday night fights with the Valentine beard. It's way before your time, but black and white TV. And that dominated every Friday night. So where we wanted to watch, well, my siblings wanted to watch Dracula and the horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
I always was afraid of them, but I would go along with it. But
Mm-hmm.
I still didn't want to watch boxing. There's something that, but those were my two choices. But anyway, so I don't know. I felt this strong connection to him. It was like the spirit between us was speaking to each other, and I just blurted it out. I said, "Daddy, I'm going to know this man. I'm going to know him somehow." Oh, he was so aggravated. My dad was really strict.
Yeah.
Okay, and I was like about 13 at the time, and you're not going to know any boys as far as my dad was concerned. So, until you're probably 30, if he had his way. So he was so aggravated. He said, "What do you mean you're going to notice? You're going to notice? What, you got some kind of schoolgirl crush on him?" I'm like, no. Now I'm like going into like a shield, like, because I'm like, no,
Yeah.
because that's disgusting. This is a man. Like, no, I'm not even thinking about anybody like that.
Right.
But my father was so frustrated. And my poor dad, I don't think he ever got it, because it wasn't something I wanted to discuss anymore, to try to explain to him, because he was not in the mood to hear why I thought I'm going to know this good looking. But as I explained in the book, in retrospect, I know why I was so drawn to him. Number one, Ali had that rhythmic, yeah, I'm the soul, so his voice is captivating enough, and because it's almost like music.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How it has like a tempo, and it has breaks in it, and so it's captivating,
Yeah.
And then he had that little twinge of like a little Kentucky kind of Southern kind of little draw to it too. So his voice is already captivating.
Mm-hmm.
And then handsome, and he's got the great body, he's got the talent, but he had the courageousness, he had the courage to stand for his convictions.
Mm-hmm.
That would morph later into my thinking about why I liked this man so much. Like, I didn't even know then why I liked him, but I knew enough that he was standing up to ridicule. He was standing up as a black man, a proud black man, and I had not seen that many of them in my life, not on TV.
Yeah.
You see them in your neighborhood and all that type of stuff, but our neighbors were Italian on one side, Irish on another side, and Irish Catholic Italian marriage right next door to me. And so I didn't grow up in like an all black neighborhood. It was diverse, and a great experience, because I got to witness what it was like. I remember, and I'm going to just deviate just a little bit. I remember Miss Helen and Dominique was her husband. They lived right next door to us.
Okay.
So she was kind of like a godmother to me.
Okay.
Because I babysitted her grandchildren when I was about 12, because they lived a few doors away, because the neighborhood, that's, how neighborhoods were.
Yep.
And I remember her saying to me one day, and I'm still trying to process like this whole thing about black, white, because I'm growing up where everybody's like kind of family, and I grew up in a pretty affluent area of Philadelphia at the time, and there weren't that many black families there. And I said to her one day something about black or white, and she said, or I said something about mixed, and she said, "Oh yeah, because Dominic's family never liked me because we have a mixed marriage." And I said, "I don't understand, Miss Helen. What do you mean by a mixed marriage? Because you're both white." And I was almost afraid to say white, like, because am I saying the wrong thing? Because race wasn't that a big deal like that to me.
Yeah.
And she said, "No, I'm Irish Catholic and he's Italian. I'm Irish Catholic and he's Italian. His family and my family are still feuding." So that put so many things as a young girl in perspective for me. Is that it doesn't matter race, creed, ethnicity, or any of that, religion. There's always somebody or some group that has it in for another group.
Yeah.
Whether it's in their own culture, their own race, there's always someone who thinks their whole existence or their limited knowledge about how diversity is really a beautiful thing. There's always someone that hates for their own limited. Am I making sense here? Like,
yeah, you are. That brings up an interesting question, Dr. Ali, and I want to throw this into the area of the criminal justice system, in that it seems like when it comes to human behavior, why is it that even now in the year 2023, and I've been on this planet for 52 years now, I would have thought that from the time I've been alive to now, we would have jumped through some major hoops and hurdles, that we wouldn't be separating things by color, by race, by creed, by but there's still those dividing lines there. If even now I would think they're even more pronounced in 2023 than there were back in the 80s and 90s. And in the 70s.
It's almost like we're going backwards. As opposed to, I think there's been so much fear that's been projected or perpetrated by people who are just miserable within their own existence. Mm-hmm. And they know that to divide people based on something, especially that's physical, is the easiest way to get a point across. That person looks different. Their hair is different. They're fat. They're ugly. They don't meet the standards or whatever. And we are a very cosmetic oriented society.
Yeah.
So even people who I do life coaching. One of my clients, she's a Caucasian, and she won't date anything but black men. And I'm like, okay, you date who you want because you like that person.
Yeah.
You don't dismiss people because of their color. And then I have the opposite. Black women or black men that will only date white or something outside of their... Look, all of that's fine. If you're attracted to someone because you like that person, then go for it. But I think that society in many ways have become victimized by the ill wills of certain people who are just individual haters or part of hate groups, and they continue to push the narrative that race matters when the only reason that race matters is that we are all part of the human race.
Right.
And that's the camaraderie that we should be working towards. Like, we should be together and unified as human beings. It doesn't matter. It's like, even people use religion a lot to separate. I don't care whether you're Christian, whether you're Muslim or whatever. People think that that's the only way, when actually religion in its true origin of the word only means way of life.
Yeah.
So if I choose the way of life as a Muslim and you choose the way of life as a Christian, and she chooses a way of life as a Jew to practice Judaism, it doesn't matter. It's like the saying, I'm going to go to downtown Philly. I want to go to Center City, Philly. Well, I'm uptown. So there's a way that you can take the Lincoln Drive, which is so beautiful. And for me, I always prefer that rather than to get on the expressway. Yeah. Okay. Where I can't get off if I get jammed. And just you're going along the river. It's just beautiful. And then there's Broad Street, which will just take you straight on down. You got to go through lights and all that type. But straight on, you can see City Hall almost from a distance. And then there's the Expressway. And then there is the East River Drive and the West River Drive. So now, because my preference, this is my religion, this is my preference, this is my way of life, this is my choice, I've got to fight with you because how dare you think another way of getting to the same place is better than the way that I like. And that's what I see this fight about with religion. I mean, worldwide, not just going on here. That's what I see the fight about. And more than it is with the people in general, it's with leadership. Why? Because the leadership controls. And they that's how churches and mosques and synagogues and Catholic dioceses, that's how they get money.
Yeah.
So you got to put money in for God to save you. Okay. So the most thing that how people can zoom in on people's insecurities is you take a position that you're holy, that you're righteous. And so automatically people want to be good and they want to lean towards what is the right thing. But okay, so now I join a mosque or I join a church or I join a parish. That's all well and good.
Mhm.
But then I become a part of the elite. And that's when other people are just not good enough.
Yeah.
It's just, and even within your own parish, even within your own mosque, even within your own religious community, you have levels of prestige and whatever. Anyway, I'm probably
No, and you're right. I mean, it's too bad because ultimately the idea of religion is that we're all one and the same, and that we're all going to we're
right.
all hoping to aspire to go to the same place.
Well, listen, the ones that we mentioned that we're talking about, they're all monotheistic religions. They all believe in the oneness of God.
Yeah.
So why? That's like the same place, the same, objective. So, but
the other thing too, Dr. Ali, that I'm not seeing is the idea that we all love and respect one another, and that doesn't play fair or play through to all the different religions either. We can't live and let live. I mean, right. And maybe I'm getting up on a soapbox.
And religions are all of them are all about professing love for thy neighbor,
right.
And wanting for your neighbor what you want for yourself, and kindness and sharing.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what we see.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And I'm not saying that we see that the most people are good people.
Yes. Yeah.
Period. Regardless of what religious or whatever they subscribe. Most people, if they saw someone hungry, they saw someone down, they're going to try to help them.
Yes,
that's
indeed.
most people.
Yes, indeed.
But it's just that you have enough evil people that it seems like evil people work harder at being evil and getting evil agendas done than good people work at fighting against evil.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I want to just kind of get a little bit more about your background here before we go to break, and then when we come back from break, okay. I want to talk about a little bit about this triple Jeopardy and what happened exactly with it. I want to talk a little bit about some of the more famous experiences you've had. Now, you've been in media, which we've both been in the same line of work at one time or another. You work for WDAS in Philadelphia.
Yes.
Explain to people your dealings in media and with radio. How did you start out there?
Well, with radio, Georgie Woods was, you know what the Apollo is. Everybody knows the Apollo.
Oh, yes.
Well, Philly's version of the Apollo is the Uptown. Okay, so that's where all the famous acts came. And just like at the Apollo, you would always have, if you bring in a major act, and what they would get is one of the local DJs that's well known to kind of MC that show, mm-hmm. the live show. So that's what George always was with the Uptown and whatever. And beyond that, when we moved to bigger venues like the Spectrum and things like that, where you'd have the Budweiser Superfest, so they're bringing in all these top groups, even the Jacksons. They brought the Jacksons in, mm-hmm. Michael Jackson and his the Jackson 5. Well, George was the man that did all that. So he started out when I was not even a teenager. He started out as a disc jockey. Now that's what they used to call them for all these young people that never heard that term, disc jockeys, mm-hmm. Before they said DJ. And I believe that DJ is the abbreviation for disc jockey.
Yes, it is.
But you can say disc jockey and to another generation and they look at you like you're crazy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so for the audience, disc jockey, that's what George was considered at the time. So it was music, mostly R&B music and whatever. And so like Barry White. So I became his producer. I was already in business for myself. I had a beauty salon, a very upscale beauty salon. So I became his producer. And after producing his show, I was also a commissioner on the Bureau of Occupational and Professional Affairs under the Cosmetology Board. Mm-hmm. So I was the only African American on that as well. So and then they asked me about doing health and beauty tips. And so I started my own health and beauty shift. So that was tips. That was my program. And it morphed from my program on WDAS to the Philadelphia Tribune, wanting me to do health and beauty tips in the print paper.
Okay.
But George, what I did as his producer, I would book the acts. And at that time, we had Philly was booming with like major basketball players and I mean, the 76ers and things like that. So I would book guests like that, but I would also book the politicians. I knew the mayor, we knew everybody. Philly is a very unique city in this respect. I remember a friend of mine saying to me, we had she had come to an event that I had at my home. The mayor was there and all these different celebrities and Joe Frazier, and she just, across genres, there were different types of celebrities. And she did the same thing that I did. Her name is Flo Anthony. She's a publicist and did very well in the boxing world. She's actually the way I started working with Butch Lewis, and then she was closer with them than I was. And my friend and my wedding and all that type of stuff. And I remember her saying to me, she said, "Your affair was amazing." And I'm like, "Thanks, Flo." And she said, "How do you get all of those people, like the Delphonics and all these different people in the same room?" She said, "When I do something or go to something in New York, say if it's New York Giants, you might get some of the New York Knicks there, but not the governor, mayor, all these, not just in." And it made me reflect that Philly is still a big city. It's like once you reach a certain plateau, everybody just knows everybody.
Yeah.
It's like you reach that level of where you have authenticity. So if you call Kenny Gamble, who when you read the book, that's a very good friend of mine,
Yep.
Philadelphia International Records, like the biggest thing. They knocked Motown out. So
yeah,
that was huge. So if you're Rita Spicer and you're running into them 5-6 times a week at different events, you become family. And so that's just the way it works. But so a little bit about that is that those connections were very, very instrumental in my growth as a public relations person. I used to just call it PR. Now they call it a publicist or your marketing, whatever. So everything's different now in terms of terms, but it's the same stuff. You're doing the same stuff. And booking them on the show. So I would book, I remember Gary Maddox, and I think the Phillies had won the championship that year. So we had some amazing ball players on there, Gary Maddox and Gary Williams. And so when I wanted to do something with someone, I could call them and ask them, when these people call and will you sign the ball? And then we had like greats like Earl the Pearl Monroe. I mean, Philly just had so much talent. Wilt Chamberlain, who originally was from Philly, and we call him Kit. So like all of these people, you get to know them. You work with them. You get to know them. Your children know their children, and it's just one kind of big melting pot. The song "The Greatest" was written by a girl that I went to school with, Linda Creed.
Oh wow.
Linda Creed was a Jewish girl, but we all hung together because at the time that I went to the school, Germantown High, was predominantly Jewish. Other ethnicities too, but Linda just was a very talented person, and she could dance like she was amazing. But one dance that she couldn't do was this dance. But she wrote "The Greatest." She also wrote "Bet You By Golly Wow."
Oh yeah.
Linda Creed, yeah. Poor Linda. May God have mercy and be gracious to her. She died very young, breast cancer. And I remember then that they had a tribute to her in Philly, and Whitney Houston was just up and coming. She had just recorded "The Greatest." Well, she was more than up and coming, but she wasn't as big as she grew to be, later years. But she was there, Ali was there, and she sang "The Greatest." And I remember just crying because it just reminded me so much of Linda. People know her, will never forget her contributions to music and to especially to African American music, because her lyrics and her vision like really morphed the stylistics into their fame. And what's his name, George Benton, I think the guitarist, he recorded "The Greatest." So just reflecting on the type of position that I had. And again, to go back to how when you know them and they know you, it was easy.
Yeah.
It was easy because there's that level of trust and that level and that feeling of family, you know. Like in the book, I talk about when the Jacksons came to town and they wanted to see the Philly game. Yes, I called the mayor's office and I said and it was a girl named Beth, I think her name, that answered. I think that was her last name. And she didn't put it on mute. And I told her I was calling because it's the last minute. Is the Jacksons want to go to the game. And she said, okay, well, Mayor Green's walking by right now. Let me just ask him. But she didn't put it on mute. And I heard the mayor say, oh, Spicer? Because my last name was Spicer, then Rita Spicer. He said, oh, yeah, tell Spicer, sure, she can have the booth, whatever she wants. Yeah, like that. Like I said, I'd run into him 5-6 times a week, you know, at different events or things like that. And so he said, oh, well, what's a Jackson? And she said, oh, you know, ABC. She starts to sing it. And he says, oh, you mean Michael Jackson and his brothers? And he said, yes, yes. So anyway, it was because I had that type of relationship with them and that I was able to call the deputy mayor and one of the city council members. The deputy mayor was George Burrell at the time. He was Philadelphia's first African American and probably one of the first African American deputy mayors in the country. And I was able to call him. And then John Anderson in City Hall. And these guys were so aggravated with me that I called them. They weren't in session, but you know they're busy.
Yeah.
And like to escort me, and I'm like, no, you guys are gone. You know, I show up for y'all. And so anyway, so that's just a little bit about me.
And I encourage you guys to go out and get the book and check out what exactly happened with the Jacksons. It's interesting. I'll put it that way. It wasn't necessarily a great meeting between Dr. Ali and the Jacksons. It wasn't your stereotypical meet and greet. Put it that way. Although I will give you props, Dr. Ali, for standing your ground with the Jacksons. That's for sure. The name of the book is Triple Jeopardy: 3 Strikes But Not Out. And it is available right now. We have a link in the description of this program. We also have a link in the description of this program for the nonprofit We Too Matter. It's we2matter.org, which provides resources for previously incarcerated women. We're going to talk about that in the second half of the program here. When we come back, we're going to talk to Dr. Ali about why exactly she and her children were put up on charges with the partnership between the Sister Clara Muhammad School and the Community College of Philadelphia, and what that indictment was all about. We're going to talk about the ghost employee scam to provide adult education classes when we come back and find out why it came up not once, not twice, but 3 times. And what this persecution was all about, especially since, as you've heard, folks, in the first part of this program, Dr. Ali was highly esteemed, highly regarded in the Philadelphia area, and why this all came up. So we're going to come back and talk to Dr. Ali about what this was all about. It's coming up next on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm your host, Tim Dennis. My guest is Dr. Rita Ali. The book is out there and available right now. Triple Jeopardy: 3 Strikes But Not Out. It's available right now. You go in the link in the description of this program, and you can get that book right away and read it. I read it over the weekend, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed the book. Lots of interesting. I tell you, Dr. Ali, you've had such a rich life, and there's just there's such great experiences in the book that you've had. Just yourself in general in your life, but then there's some disturbing things that have happened in your life as well. I want to get to one of those disturbing things if I can right now.
Yes.
The name of the book itself, Triple Jeopardy: 3 Strikes But Not Out. Walk us through, if you would. Now, you've done a lot of great things for your community, done a lot of great things for the people of Philadelphia. Explain to us what happened that got you face to face with the government and why they chose to turn their eyes on you and persecute and prosecute you.
Well, Tim, I'm going to start by saying, from my perspective, it was selective prostitution. Prostitution. That's a play on word. Prosecution.
Okay.
from the beginning. And the reason why I say that is because at the time that they indicted us, or that they were looking in or investigating the ghost employee scam on the Sister Clara Muhammad School, there were several other sites that they actually went to and visited, like they did Clara Muhammad School. Like they did it under an investigation where no one knew that they were visiting the schools. And one school, they actually said, and this all comes out in open court.
Mm-hmm.
One school, it was at a house in one of the neighborhoods in Philadelphia. When they went there, it said showed no signs of any activity going on. And then there were other situations like that too. Whereas with the Sister Clara Muhammad School, it was the old St. Tommy More Catholic high school that the Muslim community purchased, and across the street from it was the chapel, the church, and another Catholic school. So that was just one of the purchases that, and that whole little area, because of the Catholic school, and there's a big Methodist church or something across the street, and then us, it's kind of like a triangle of a haven of safety in a very bad, rough urban neighborhood,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of like the beacon, and we all kind of like work together. So when they asked me, a woman who, and the reason why I believe that it was very targeted, a woman who came to me, she was a Republican,
mm-hmm.
and her name, well, I won't even say her name because in the book I don't name her, so I'm not going to name her.
Sure.
She came to me and she said, I would like to know whether or not the Philadelphia Masjid, that's the name of the two. The Masjid is where the school is adjacent to the Masjid. It's all the same building.
Okay.
So the Masjid is like in the auditorium of the school, which is huge, but it's turned into what they call a masala, which is where the prayers go on and so on like that. And the Juma, which is the service, goes on every Friday. Mm-hmm. So she said, she came to my office. She called first. She came to my office. She said, we've been trying to get in this area for a long time and offer adult education classes. And this is one of the places that people feel safe, regardless to what their ethnicity is or whatever, or their religion is. This is like a nice area. And if you guys would be interested, the community college will offer $450 per class per semester. I said, well, sure, we'd be interested, because anything to help the community, we'd be glad to do it.
Sure. Because
we would have bazaars, and we would have carnivals, and we'd have fish fries and stuff, and everybody just supports everybody, whether it's the church across the street or whether it's the school. We all support everything. If they're selling candy, we buy it. So that's the type of relationship it was.
Right.
So I said, sure. All I did, Tim, was sign a rental agreement. And I want to emphasize that it was $450 per semester. Mm-hmm. And that's based on a regular college semester for commercial classes. So basically, we're giving it away.
Yeah.
For commercial space. So, so you have you have the fall and the spring, and then there were 2 sessions in the summer that are 6 weeks. So that's all I did. Mm-hmm. She asked me whether or not we would provide them for free space where the community college could have a space and have their own phone number and like their own little office. And I said, sure. So we gave her a little small space and didn't charge for that. And then she said, do you mind if we were to distribute some flyers for the classes? Now, the classes that they offered were very attractive, because us being the Muslim and the largest masjid, or among the largest masjids in that whole region at the time, and very well known, historically known, we attract a lot of people and a lot of attention, right? So she said, if we could give the flyer, I'm like, sure. She gave them to the people in the front office, who was running the front office. And that Friday, like, we would have over 1,000 people come out for every Juma, because there's a big masjid. That Friday, they distributed them. Well, the classes offered were English as a second language. So we had a lot of immigrant Muslims that came. They were definitely interested in that. The other class was, Arabic as a second language. So Americans who are Islam or just grew up as Muslims, that's a big deal to them to learn the language of the Quran. So we were always offering Arabic classes all the time into school anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing was like everybody didn't have laptop computers then. So,
Right.
and everybody didn't have a lot of the house, especially in this poor neighborhood, didn't have computers. So we offered computer science classes,
Mm-hmm.
um, basic adult education classes, GED classes. Well, this appeals to people. And so she came back to me the following week and she said, listen, we don't have enough instructors to fulfill these classes. Like hundreds of people signed up at the Juma. And then neighborhood people signed up too that weren't Muslims that signed up too.
Okay.
She said, do you think some of your teaching staff would be interested in doing some classes? I said, well, I'll put you with the principal. You can talk to her or the administrator. You can talk to them, and you guys go from there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. I never filled out an application. I never taught at the school. My son and daughter got involved because she was so smitten by Kiki.
Mm-hmm.
Till now she wanted, because Kiki's like living her life. I mean, she's living a fabulous life in New York. She's a college graduate. She did her junior and sophomore year in Florence, Italy. She
Mm-hmm.
comes from an affluent family. So she's fine. But my husband and I are taking care of all of her bills because if she doesn't want to work, she doesn't have to. So, she's living in New York, right across the street from where you go to get on the Statue of Liberty. Wow. West Street. I remember the address well. And across from that is the Ritz-Carlton. So
that's a nice neighborhood.
We're paying for that. And of course, she has access to My American Express.
Wow.
So she takes jobs like as she wants to, but it's because she's enthused. And then her and Mike are now living together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when she comes to Philly, it's not office, but the woman was so smitten by her. She just was like, do you think that she would teach some classes on etiquette and like grooming and and we could make that specifically for the girls. And then Kiki said sure. And then we were also putting in a bid for a charter school application,
mm-hmm.
which was tentatively approved. If we had just gotten the next semester, we would have had a charter school. And the charter school was based on Middle Eastern studies. Mm. And so when you study the Middle East, it will help people kind of understand what's going on, the conflict between Muslims and the Jewish people and the culture and everything. So it was all about providing better content on how these conflicts could and could be resolved,
mm-hmm.
and to have greater understanding because Islam was growing really fast in America and just to provide better content. And so it would be just like Catholic schools where you get all your other curriculum, but you also learn about the Catholicism.
Sure.
So anyway, the classes were going great. And so then she asked my son, I forget what he taught. But anyway, because she needed, and my children are educated
mm-hmm.
kids. And so Kiki agreed. By this being held at the masjid, at the Clara Muhammad School, which is part of the masjid, Muslims pray 5 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
So the school is open 24 hours. Okay. Even if people are traveling and they're weary or whatever, they let them sleep there and help them and get people situated. So this gave us the opportunity, I guess, like unlike some of the other locations, to have a class in the morning from like 8 to 12, and then from 1 to 4, another class, and then the evening classes from 6 to 9 or whatever that was, and then 2 8-hour day classes on Saturday and Sunday because we're always there anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it filled up so much. So all of a sudden 9/11 happened. And now many people are not liking Muslims. And I just can't help but think that I'm not saying that we were attacked because we were Muslims, because I don't know that. I don't know what lurks in the hearts of people.
Right.
But I do think that we were just too big. We were just having too much influence. Because my husband is like what people consider almost like a kingmaker with politicians. Like all of them come to him, and the unions, all of them work together. The mayor had a group of clergies that are kind of like advisors to the mayor. The governor has it too on the state level. My husband was head of one of them, and then he was also on the prison board. So, we were just getting too big. And the current mayor then was considering opening the Muslim Mall of America.
Oh.
And that was going to be out at 69th Street. Of course, it wasn't going to just be Muslims, but it would be a mall that would have like a lot of stuff from the East and, stuff from Israel and stuff from, just something to add more, because we have a big Jewish and Muslims and Christians. And we bring in Middle Eastern, a lot of stuff, but regular stuff too.
Sure.
So it always gets down to that electoral college, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida. If you don't take Philly, forget Pennsylvania.
Yep.
And Tim, when I tell you we were Philly, okay?
Yep.
If my husband basically, vetted you and worked with you and whatever, the unions trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying it blindly, but they trusted him. And so, but my husband also, and we've also supported Republicans as much as we've supported Democrats. It's like whoever we think is going to do the job. It was, I can't think of his name. Was it Casey? It wasn't Casey, but one of the governors, I can't think of Thornhill before, the one before Casey. I can't even, my mind's slipping now. He visited the school, him and his wife. They loved the type of things, and they were Republicans. They loved the type of things that we were doing at the school. So we just try to deal with who was right. And when I would do fundraisers or whatever, I would have the mayor fight. He was supposed to fight George Foreman, but he ended up fighting someone else. Everybody's there, whether you're Republican, Democrat. I don't care. It's just, So anyway, so when they announced that they were coming at us, it was right after 9/11. So I think that because we were already too big in terms of our influence in the political thing, and there was this mentality of coming in after the stuff that took place with Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky?
Yeah.
Monica Lewinsky.
Yep.
There was this whole idea about the Republican Party taking over the presidencies for the next 100 years because they're coming in on this moral majority wave, which there's nothing wrong with that within itself, if that's the real reason. But in order to do that, you've got to take Pennsylvania, in the presidential election. And what's the easiest way to, again, remember when I talked earlier about the easiest way to gender up hatred or negative feelings towards someone is through something physical. Mm-hmm. So uppity African Americans living better than many people don't have the right to that. And now they're Muslims on top of what just happened in our country in America. So I think that it was more about the political influence that we had and more about making sure that there wouldn't be another loss or defeat for Republicans in the national election and the presidential election than it was about us being Muslim. But 9/11 just gave them a cherry on top because it just was so much easier to get people to hate us. I never was called a nigger by anybody in my entire life. And like I said, I grew up around predominantly white people, or at least a good mixture of white and black. Mm-hmm. Went to schools that were raised my children in schools that were predominantly white. Mm-hmm. My daughter and I are walking down Market Street, getting ready to go into the federal building. Two white boys throw something out of I don't know whether it was coffee or a milkshake or what it was, whatever, but it was something in a container. Nigger bitches, John Street nigger bitches or something they called us, and threw something at us. It didn't touch us, but, and they just scurried off. And then, so we thought we're going to still win, okay? But we were beat up every day, Tim, in the press for like almost 3 years. Just every day, just hitting us so much until you know how they have theme music for like you would have it for your show or like we're getting ready to take a break or whatever.
Yep.
So when they do the pop when they do the voting and stuff like that, that music
Yep.
means okay, we're gonna go into that segment. They had theme music on the TV channels for knowing that you get ready to go into the Ali segment every day.
Had your own
Every
segment.
day.
Yeah.
Yes, every day. So by the time we get to court, not only that, we were financially well off.
Mm-hmm.
But the school went down and closed because people took their kids out. They were scared because the media was out there every day and people were just terrified. And so it was like a really, really horrific time. And like I said, just that whole thing of the United States government versus me. I'd never been in trouble in my life. I was 57 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Never, not even a moving violations. I didn't get them. I didn't get traffic tickets. I paid them for my husband and my son, but I didn't get them myself. Traffic tickets, not moving violations. But just that was something like it's almost like you're in a spiritual out of body experience because you can't really believe this is happening to you. You just don't believe it. It's but you got to get through it. But you
Right.
just you don't believe it. And
So with that,
Go ahead.
Rita, not only are you going through a trial, but then there's some incarceration with this, isn't there?
Yes. So the first time that they take us to court, we're before a judge, John P. Fulham. I'll never forget this man. At the time, I believe he was 82 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And they said this judge is a no-nonsense judge, tough. I think he's an Irishman. I'm not sure, but just tough boy. Nobody you want to play with. No, you didn't even look like you wanted to play with him. Whatever. Mm-hmm. The courtroom's filled every day with my supporters. Muslims, Christians, white, black, everybody, every day till they even in the corridors, people can't get in. The only people other than my supporters were the U.S. attorneys and whoever was with them and like a front row of media. But other than that, that courtroom was filled for supporting me and my children. So we go to trial with the lead defendant is the woman who brought the community college to us. The next one is me. Next is my daughter, and then the woman's son, who now he was living in San Diego, and she had him on the community college. And I remember her saying to me one night, she said, "Oh my God, we were at the school." She said, I gotta run. She had just stopped in to see me, because of college, see how the classes were going. She said, "Oh, I gotta run. I gotta do Eugene's classes." That's her son. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, because he's not here to do it. So she was doing this class for him. I didn't think anything of it. Nothing at all. But when it comes down to my children being charged with being ghost employees and her son being charged, and he was a lawyer in San Diego at the time. So she had him on the college. He didn't even know about it. Anyway, so it comes out in the courtroom that the classes existed. The school existed. People testified that Kiki did the classes. Mm-hmm. One of the security guards said he knew that Kiki did the classes because he was there on the weekends and he knew it since she was a kid. And other people at the school testified that Kiki and Azim did the classes. Mm-hmm. But Kiki also did other work for Dolores. Oh, I didn't say the woman's name, but anyway, she also did other work for her and for the college, like filling out paperwork and stuff that she would ask them to do. Now, that was the same with some of the other people that worked at the school too. They would go on errands and take paperwork to the back to the college and the payroll and all. I had nothing to do with any of that. So anyway, the judge read the jury like something out of a storybook, and I'm a paraphrase what he said.
Sure.
He said, "Listen, before we get into this, I want you people to understand that these people over here, these U.S. attorneys and the IRS people and all that, they do not walk on water and they don't wear cloaks. So you are not to take the testimony of their witnesses over that of the witnesses that came in to testify for the defense. You are to judge all of these witnesses on the merit." He said, "Now what this people was charged with. He said my name.
Mm-hmm.
And these defendants were charged with was a ghost employee scam. He said what a ghost employee scam means is that people are getting money for a program that doesn't exist. The government's own witnesses testified that the program at the Sister Clara Muhammad School was consistent with classes being taught. Said now, everybody that's gone to college knows that there is an unwritten rule that you go to a classroom and you're a student, you wait 15, 20 minutes, no professor shows up or no instructor shows up, you can leave and you're not going to be penalized for being, missing class.
Right.
He said the same works for instructors, that they stay 15, 20 minutes, no students close, come, they can leave. He said, and so that instructor still is getting paid because that instructor was there. So that's not considered ghost employee. He said, so it was not Miss Ali's responsibility to run any of that. All she did was sign a lease agreement, which they were entitled to. He said, and so either the classes existed or they didn't. He said, but you are the fact finders. However, if you concur with me, you have to equip these Rita Ali and these defendants. They came back in less than an hour, found us guilty of everything. Yep, everything. The judge was livid. He said he was tempted for the first time to overturn the sentence, but he didn't. So what he tried to do with us, he gave me a year house arrest and my children 6 months house arrest. I think he gave the woman, the lead defendant, she had her case separate from ours. Okay. So she didn't go to trial with us, but her son did. So we're into the year house arrest and it's almost over. The government does a superseding indictment on me and charged me with the same charges. Now here we get the double jeopardy, same charges. But now I don't have money for a lawyer because everything has been stopped. What the government did, they didn't take anything, but they made sure that all of our partners and relationships and people backed away from it. I mean, they even went to Don King.
Really?
And yeah, they went to Don King and just wanted him to know what bad people we are. Don called my husband right after. They went to John Doherty, who was a big union guy. They flew out to California to go and talk to Will Smith, to tell Will Smith and them that these people are bad. And they told some of my son's friends that if you stick with these people, you could be charged with it. This is like, so they alienated, they terrified families and friends and people. And just the news and media accounts alone was enough to terrify. But many of the people just still stuck with us. They just knew that wasn't right.
Yeah.
So now we're going for a superseding indictment. All right, so we're going for so I'm going before the next judge. But it's not my children, it's just me. They only want me. Because in the meanwhile, they would come to me via my lawyer and say that they wanted me to testify against my husband, who they had charged my husband with pay to play. The contracts that he had, big contracts. He had the contracts for all the antenna businesses, for cell phones throughout Philadelphia. So you can go from being a millionaire, a fast track from being a millionaire to being a billionaire with just that contract alone. But it was throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So their assertion was that the reason my husband got this is because he was able to deliver votes for the governor and for the mayor. But that's not. He got it because he put the best bid in. And Easy Pass was another one of my husband's things. Easy Pass, right? Yeah. So you can imagine that, the type of lucrative money that would have been for us.
Right.
But anyway, so now we're dealing with hardly no money. We're really living off of our savings. And so I have no money for a lawyer. But Tim, when I tell you I can never, and I will never say I did something that I didn't do, I just won't do it. I just won't do it. Whatever the cost was, I won't do it. So I was offered via my lawyer that this could all go away. This was even before the first trial. If I would testify against my husband, because I was a commissioner, well-liked, so that would surely nail him and some of the mayor's people and the government, the people who were on trial want to go on trial with him. And they offered me witness protection for me and my children. And I'm like, go where and do what? That God doesn't know what I did.
Yeah.
And that I'm not going to acquiesce to this evil and hurt people because I'm not going to be hurt. I can't do it. So I don't think I'm tough. I just think that I'm honorable. I just think that I'm decent. And I just think that if it's in God's plan, why not me? So anyway, now we're before the next judge. And so, like I said, I won't say I did something I didn't do. So I plead no low contender.
Okay.
There's a big fight. The U.S. attorney is like, no, she's got to say she's guilty. The judge is like, no, she doesn't. It's her constitutional right. I can't force her to say she's guilty.
Mm-hmm.
This judge says, and this is Judge Hoffman or Kaufman. I forget, it's Kaufman or Hoffman, and he's Jewish. So they want to bring up this whole thing about that I am anti-Semitic, which nothing can be further than the truth, because on the day of 9/11, I get a call from the woman who ran the program saying that, wait, I mean, is Kiki okay? Whatever like that. And I'm like, why? What's going on? She said, turn the TV on. So she's telling me about 9/11 or whatever like that. And then I'm like, okay, well, then I called my husband. And the first thing my husband says something about, oh my God, the Jews in Palestine, those Jews got to get out of Palestine or something like that. But not in a mean way. But I didn't even comment on it. I said, look, right now, I'm just trying to find our daughter. That's like,
yeah.
Because I don't even know at that time, I didn't even know that much about the conflict or whatever. But not only that, this is a crisis. So that's my reaction.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they want to play that in open court along with me chastising one of the students over the phone because they got 38,000 tapes on us. Whoa. 38,000 tapes. They put that kind of money into us for a ghost employee scam. I mean, come on. Like that cost them more than what they claimed the scam was. But anyway, so there's another tape where I call this student, one of the students, and this student was what I call a ward of the school.
Okay.
Both of her parents have been in prison, and we had a lot of students like that. I paid her tuition. Me and my husband, we took care of the tuition for these kids.
Okay.
Either through raising funds or our own money. Okay. So she was in an altercation, and after my daughter-in-law, who's a teeny little thing and was pregnant at the time and was going to try to physically fight her. So everybody in the school is kind of scary, but me, I know how to bully kids with my verbally. Mm-hmm. I can scare the hell out of them. So I called her and I said, you little wench, I will come down there and kick your behind, because they all scared of me. Mm-hmm. Because I put the best bluff up with the school. And those students are still with me to the day. They laugh about it now, but they said, you were scary. I said, I will, you want to act like a street, I will, whatever. So they want to play those in open court because they want to prejudice. Because look, I'm already a convicted felon. Mm-hmm. So your points come down if you can get people to put letters in for you. Different things bring your points down. If you're not violent and, whatever. But now I'm a convicted felon. And the first time I was looking at 55 years. Okay. Jeez. So the judge gave me a year and a year house arrest. So that did not set real room. So that's what this is, retaliation for that. Yeah. So they've taken me on the superseding indictment. But this is what the judge says to him when he starts off. He said, and I'm paraphrasing again because it's been a while. He says, I know what we're here to do today, but I have to direct this to the U.S. attorney. I know what we're here to do today, and I know what you would like the outcome to be today. He said, but I just have to ask for my own self. Is it fundamentally fair to sentence this woman again for something she's already been sentenced for? I believe I already know your answer, but I have to ask it. Yeah. So anyway, what they wanted was to play that in open court. So we go to the judge's chambers. I never even knew that a defendant could be. So we're sitting at this round table and they're in there and they play the tapes. The judge said, well, I'll hear it in my chamber. So we're all in the judge's chambers. And they play the tapes. And they play the one where I'm supposed to be hating the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. The judge said she didn't even comment. And even her husband's comment has nothing to do with hate.
Right.
A lot of people, he said that's a political position. Well, so what? then played the one about the girl. So they thought that would really get him. And the judge said, tough love. That's all that is.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she's getting all them kids through that school. Mm-hmm. So no, I'm not going to allow you to prejudice, and put that out in the paper and everything. And because what they were trying to do is they wanted the letters, because there was a stack of letters, like 1.5 inches of letters of people, almost like a phone book of people, what do you call character?
Besmirch your character. Yeah.
And they wanted to throw them out. But the more of those that you get, it can help the judge lower your points so that if he has to give you prison time or probation or whatever, it's on the lower scale. So the judge refused to throw them out, and he refused to let them play that in open court. So he sentences me to 24 months at Danbury Federal Prison. And leaving, and then he asked me, did I need time before he gave me the option to self-surrender, which is like a very dignified thing for someone that has to go to prison to do.
Yeah.
And I said, yes. And they were like, no, they were arguing. He said, I'm going to give her, she's no flight risk. This woman's, I know she will turn herself in.
Yeah.
So he gave me 30 days to get my affairs together and so on and so on. But they argued, nothing for me, nothing. They just wanted me to have nothing. So I go to Danbury, I self-surrender. No, but before I before, he didn't say for me to self-surrender. He just said 24 months. And then it was Danbury Federal Prison. So when I'm going, and now they're processing me out from court that day, and telling me one of the bailiffs, I don't know if you call them a bailiff, but one of the persons there that was processing me out, he said, Miss Ali, you're such a nice woman. He said, please tell your lawyer to ask the judge if you can self-surrender. And then that way you go right to Danbury. Well, see, I don't know nothing about any of this. I've never been to prison before.
Yeah.
He said, as opposed to if you don't ask him if you can self-surrender, you automatically have to surrender at the detention center here, which is really rough. And you'll have to stay there, and then you'll be shackled and moved to Danbury whenever they do that. So I said, oh, well, thank you. And so we asked the judge, and the judge, that was at the judge's discretion. He said, yes, of course, I could self-surrender myself. So I was able to just ride up. My brother and them took me up, and I surrendered. And so, I talk a little bit more about what it was like being in prison and, how that was. But to get back into where the third indictment comes from. Mm-hmm. So at that time, and they were just starting to give people 6 months halfway house in prison. Mm-hmm. And people who had been there 15 years or whatever. And that's a big deal because you get to go back to your region, your origin, where your crime was so committed, or maybe to another location, but you get to go out every day if you get a job. And then once you turn in 2 checks, because halfway house is all about money too. So you turn in 25% of your gross salary 2 times. You get to go at home if the halfway house thinks that you're qualified for that. So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And so the warden calls me into her office. Not the warden, my counselor calls me, and she said, Miss Ali, I got good news and I got bad news. I'm like, now what? And she says, well, the good news is that we're going to give you 6 months halfway house. And I'm like, really? Because they were just giving people who have been there much longer, 2 months, whatever. She said, the bad news is that we're going to lose a very bright light in a dark place. And I'm like, well, thank you. And because they love me. Mm-hmm. The warden loved me. The women loved me. The counselors loved me. I wasn't a problem. Every day I was helping someone or, disputing, breaking down arguments and, bringing calm and, whatever. And it wasn't like a real violent place. It was almost like a college campus. Yeah. Could have really walked off, no guns, nothing like that, the guards. So anyway, I'm at the halfway house. I'm about a month away for this to all go away. Early one morning, the counselor comes in the room. They never come in the room. Mm-hmm. And they're not allowed to touch you. So you're in this steel bed, this bunk bed made of steel. I hear this tap on the bed, and it arouses me out of my sleep. And I'm like, what? And I could barely see her because it's just barely daylight. Mm-hmm. And she said, are you okay? And I'm like, why? Not mad at her, but like, I'm still I'm a little discombobulated. She said, you haven't seen today's paper yet, have you? I'm like, no. She said, you and your daughter have to go back for resentencing. Oh. And that's in the first case because the government appealed that 6 months for her and that year for me. So that's how now we're going to go back before Judge Fulham. So I'm cool because like Fulham's not going to give us jail time. This is still over. So Fulham, we go before Fulham, and to make a long story short, he gives her 6 months prison time and me a year.
Jeez.
And I'm really kind of upset with Fulham because this is a man, and even at the closing, he said, I still feel the same way about this woman and this woman, these two women that I did the day they walked in my courtroom so many years ago. I still feel as though they're good people. And so I'm like, okay, you're not saying anything. I'm like, oh, you feel I'm a good person, but you're giving me jail time?
Yeah.
But then he said, and for you, Miss Ali, this is double jeopardy. He said, you should appeal this, right? So he gave me and Kiki the best defense attorneys that you could have for appeal. He court appointed them. So it wasn't a public defender. The court's paying for them. He gave us two separate ones. We meet with our lawyers. Kiki and I come back with the same conversation. Basically, both lawyers had the same conversation. Judge Fulham basically gave y'all a gift. And it was a gift because this would be the second sentencing for Kiki. So your points are higher. Your mother's points are higher. The government has already said that they're going to appeal it if you don't get jail time. Because they got to look good in front of the public. These people got to go to jail. They're just thinking it's out for blood for us and such hatred. And so we will fight for you. But it's going to go right back to the same Third Circuit that overturned your sentence the first time. Said, and the next time, and what Judge Fulham fears is that the next time he won't be there because he was 85 or so now.
Oh, wow.
And they'll get the judge that will give you many years and give your daughter a lot of hard time to do. So we'll do whatever you want, but that's what we believe that you're faced with, and that's why Fulham did this. Just give them their pound of flesh and let this go away. So Kiki and I agreed, and then we find out, because Kiki was so upset in the courtroom, she wanted to just go then, just get it over with. And I'm like, no, Kiki, it's okay. Let's just take the time. So he gave us the 30 days. He would have given us 90 or whatever, but we just took 30, and we self-surrendered together, and this time we went to Alderson prison. But before we self-surrendered, we find out that Kiki's pregnant. She's pregnant by her first daughter, by Mike.
Okay.
So I had already been in prison, and I had realized in prison that there was a woman that was leaving 2 or 3 days after I got there. And when she was leaving, her husband was coming to prison. They had gotten caught up on the same case.
Okay.
And I'm like, why? Why are they doing? She said, well, they allowed us to split it up where I would come in and do my time so he could stay with the kids. That way, they don't have to go to foster care. The state doesn't have to pay for them, whatever. And then now he'll go and I'll be home with the kids. So that stayed in my mind. Well, came back to mind when Kiki had to go and we found out she's pregnant. So we contact the lawyer, and the lawyer said, okay, I'll contact the judge. We didn't know that the U.S. attorney has to approve it, though, even though the judge can recommend it, the U.S. attorney. With Kiki, no. And they know the rate of miscarriages in prison and the stress that these women go through in prison. A lot of women don't make it, or their babies they have problems with delivery, and they knew that. But with Kiki, no. They just nothing, no breaks, no, not even a break, but just humanity, what you give anybody else in the same situation. Now, we finally finished. I go to see my probation officer after I leave the halfway house, and I'm getting ready to move out and live with Kiki and Mike in Vegas. I'm going to leave Philly. Mm-hmm. I said to him, by the way, whatever happened to the first defendant, the lead defendant in my case? Because she finally went to trial, found guilty, and Fulham gave her jail time. I don't remember how much, but some of my supporters were there. Mm-hmm. So whatever happened to her? Where'd she go to prison? And he said, shook his head, Tim, and disgust and I guess sentiment too. He said, I don't even want to tell you. I'm like, what? He said, she didn't do a daytime. Not one day in prison. What? So she got sentenced to prison. Now, the only way that I know that you don't do any time is that you got to be on your deathbed, you got to be going to hospice. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Or the feds got to reward you and say, let her do it at home or let her be on whatever. She did not one day, even though she was sentenced to prison time. The lead defendant, her crime allegedly worse than what they accused me of.
Right.
When did I have the power? I didn't have the power to write a check. I didn't have the power to hire, to submit a resume. I had no power in the situation. She had all the power. And her son, unlike my children, never did one day of teaching classes or anything else for the community college. He goes on to live his wonderful life without a felon record in San Diego or wherever he's at. She goes on to still be a member of the most prestigious African American society clubs and so on. And I get the record for being a convicted felon for the rest of my life.
So obviously, I mean, at the very least, bias, but let's call it what it is, political bias, and much, much more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's.
But listen, Tim, I am not a woe is me person.
And I see that. And
no,
I
not at all.
Yeah.
I'm not a woe is me person. And I'm totally not against my government or against even our judicial system. Doesn't always get it right, but at least I had a trial.
Yeah.
Okay. At least I got somewhat of a chance. I wasn't just taken and shot. Okay. Even though it was tainted with a lot of negativity. And I think that that's something where we need to definitely look at, that this judicial system needs to be overhauled. And, you know, we need a lot of work done. But I still know we live in the best country in the world. And I can say that having traveled. I've been to China. I've been to all throughout Europe. You know, I've been lots of places. Haven't been to the Far East, but I've been enough places to enjoy them. But I always want to come home. There's no place like America for me. And I love my country. They didn't get it right as far as I'm concerned with me, but it's still the greatest country in the world. And I definitely don't want to lead your listeners or anyone thinking that I'm bitter or whatever. You know, I go before I go on with my life knowing that I did the right thing. Okay. I don't know how people who are prosecutors that actually persecute people, how you live with that, because that's how you get your big promotion or makes you feel empowered in some way. I don't know how you do things to people and where you're in the position to, yes, administer punishment and justice fairly, and you don't. And I think that that's something that as a society we have to look at, because whether people believe it or not, not everybody that goes to prison is guilty. Okay. Some people need to go to prison.
Yeah.
Some people will actually tell you, Tim, it saved my life. People will tell you that they were headed in such a destructive path that if they hadn't gone to prison, they would not even probably be here today. You know, and other people tell you that one of the things that I found that was so encouraging for me and gave me a better look into the mindset of the women that I came in contact with in prison. I never met anybody but one person the whole time that I was in prison that said that they were innocent. Everybody else that I ever talked, and I didn't talk to every woman in the prison, but I talked to a lot of them.
Yeah.
Everyone that I ever talked to, when you discuss how you got there, what happened, or just your situation, every one of them, their mentality was, and words almost to this effect, almost every time, hey, look, I knew what I was doing. I knew I was wrong. I knew I was committing a crime. And I always know what the deal is. You commit a crime, you got to do the time. So I ain't whining. I just got to do my time. And hopefully I'm going to benefit from this. I'm going to take my classes. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do whatever. So it's a badge of honor. And for people to think that there's no honor amongst thieves or drug dealers or whatever, there is. I'm not saying when you're doing something like that, but when you're faced with that reckoning of, is this who you want to be in your life? Do you want to hurt people by selling drugs? Do you want someone to steal from you? Is what you want your legacy to be? When you're confronted with that, I find that the women that I have come in contact with, they own up to what they've done and they want to make amends for it. And I find that even when they come out, given the resources, they are so helped and so grateful. And many of them do very well once they get out. And when people give them jobs, the consensus is that they do better and work harder than people who don't have felon records. So I'm not saying everyone, there are always exceptions, but I'm saying the general rule is that once a person is a reformed person, you get a good mother, you get a good person that comes out and wants to do that. So, and that's, go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was going to say that segues nicely into what you're doing right now and taking lemons, making it into lemonade, we2matter.org.
Yes.
And let's talk about that briefly here before we leave everybody here today. Empowering formerly incarcerated women to re-enter society. And again, you're taking what was really a horrendous experience and taking and making something positive from it. Obviously, we know where this is inspired from, but tell us how you're taking it a couple of steps further.
Well, I'd like to just kind of touch on what happened while I was in prison that led me to wanting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It was Mother's Day, my first Mother's Day in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim, when I tell you I've never experienced no type of moaning and hurt amongst a group of people like I did on Mother's Day. I was there through Christmas, I was there through Easter, other holidays, and they're sad because people are, they want to be free and they want to be with family. And these everything in our society perpetuates the idea and the concept of togetherness and family and friends during holidays. So I had, prior to me going to prison, my husband being a religious cleric, he would visit different people in prisons to help them, to counsel them, it didn't matter what their ethnicity or religion was. So on a few occasions, and there were very few occasions, I traveled with him to male prisons. And not sometimes, every time I've ever gone, the waiting room, the process of getting in is always chaotic and filled with people. Sometimes there's two baby mamas arguing in a fight in the waiting room because this is their turn, or I didn't know this bee was coming, and it's always something. And the visiting rooms are so crowded with people supporting men, baby mamas, mothers, sisters, and just women in general, and men supporting the men. When I went and I worked in the visiting room at Danbury, and when I even had my own visits, a beautiful visiting room. I mean, if you can say that, it's nice room, spacious,
mm-hmm.
could have held many women. There would only be 2 or 3 women in there, maybe 5 at the most. And so women did not traditionally get the support from men that we have given them over the years, putting our little money together, putting money on their books and whatever. I came in contact with women who have been there for 7, 8 years and never had a visit. Never. The one woman I came in contact with, I remember there's like a religious group, and they send women to visit people in prison. And so I learned that she was going to take this visit. I never knew nothing like that existed. So, but I learned that she was going to take this visit, and I said to her, why would you want to go to a visiting room and be with strangers? And she said, why? She said, I haven't had a visit in 7 years. I've never even seen the inside of the visiting room. Wow. I've never been able to get anything out the dispensaries, ice cream, different stuff like that. All I've had was prison food. I have no money on my books. I have no job. She said, just somebody to say a kind word to me outside of here. That hit me. And that was Mother's Day. So you don't have much in prison, but if you have a wedding band, I think you're allowed to keep that. You're allowed to keep a pair of gold earrings, whether they're gold or not, but a pair of earrings. So whatever we have, even though you're not supposed to share it,
Mm-hmm.
when it's this woman's turn to go to that visiting room who hasn't had a visitor in 7 years, 5 years, hasn't seen her children, her baby that was taken away from her because she had it while she was in prison. This, Tim, is the year that after years of disappointment and people promising to come, they still believe that this year somebody's coming. So it's only a few of them, maybe 10 or 15 of them. So whatever we have, we share it with them. You got lipstick? Oh, somebody does their hair. If you got a better shirt than them, and because their shirt may be worn because they've been there for a long time, you just maybe knew it, you give them your uniform shirt because you got to go into the visiting room with the uniform. And we're all so happy for them, even though we're not getting a visit for Mother's Day, but we're just happy because somebody is. And Tim, when I tell you they strut up to that business like proud peacocks, they strut up there. They're just so happy and everything. And they linger outside the visiting room, right? And they wait and they wait. And the enthusiasm is high. They're laughing, they're talking. But when that visiting hour nears where they know it's the cutoff, getting near 4 o'clock, you see the mood starting to change. Now, this is coupled with all throughout the dorm, all you hear is crying and moaning and, oh, why and what, you're hearing that all the time. But now it's cutoff time. Those women who went up there with their heads up, they come back with head bows like slaves. It reminds me of like slaves. And I'm not talking about because they were black, because it was 50% white women at Danbury where I was. But that I'm talking like broke down, like they've been just their spirit. That was the worst day in my entire life. And I buried brothers. I buried my parents. I've seen tragedy like anybody at my age. I've seen tragedy. But that got me, Tim. And that's when I knew coming out I'm going to land in a cushy place. I had contacts. I had already had job offers to run offices and do community work and different things like that. So I knew I was going to be okay. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to live off a small amount of money compared to what I was used to living. And it like all of a sudden it hit me like, you trying to figure out how you're going to live off of $80, $100,000 or whatever. People are going home to nothing. These women have nothing, no one. And that's when We Too Matter, the concept of it was birthed. So with the help of my son-in-law, thank goodness, we were able to launch We Too Matter and get other celebrities involved. And we work with an amazing group, Standing United. That's an amazing group as well. I was able to meet Van Jones through him doing Mike Tyson's podcast and tell him about the things I was doing. And then I became part of one of his organizations, which is Dream Corps, which is like Dream Corps along with I think it's what's Jay-Z's organization? I can't think, Alliance or something like that. They just have such a bigger platform. So by them even embracing We Too Matter, which was basically a startup like 3 years ago, put us on like a national recognition stage where we were able to help so many more women. And some of the help that we do for them, a lot of it is through providing, not necessarily providing the resources for them, but connecting them with the industries or the people or the organizations that do have like facilities. Like we don't have a We Too Matter house yet. We don't have housing, but we connect them to housing. Okay. And so we have partnerships that do all that. There's another group of us that we meet the last Wednesday of every month. And that organization, CAP, brings together a correlation of people like us in this space that you might sit in the meeting and someone says, oh, well, I got 3 people leaving from such and such a prison or from county. And one of them always has a job, but nobody else has a job. This particular person is having problems getting a job because of so-and-so or whatever. Then someone in the meeting said, oh, well, we can put them with so-and-so. They're hiring right now. So the resources that we bring together has made a major impact on helping a lot of women. And I'm so grateful for that, that these organizations have partnered with We Too Matter, have allowed us really to partner with them because they were in existence before us. But celebrity matters. It really does. Van Jones said in recently in one of the videos I saw him, he said many people want to help with criminal justice reform, but finding ways to help is difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult
Yep.
because I didn't even know all these organizations existed until I got into space, and then starting to so having the connections to put women where they can go into rehab. Many of the women who are in prisons, especially county and state prisons, are in there because of low level drug crimes. Um, and then and it's just the cycle goes back. Like you say, for example, I've heard stories where women were released from prisons that are way out in the boondocks somewhere, and they're here in the middle of the night, and they're given like $15 to take a bus. Now the bus costs $8. What do you think they're going to do with the other seven? They have no place to go.
Yeah.
And that's when a woman maxes out. That's when they some people refuse halfway houses. Some people refuse probation because they believe it's just a cycle for them to put them right back. So you violated and now you're going right back to prison. And that happens a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So some people have been doing the same pretty much because of the same original crime. They've been in there for 17, 10 years just because they violate. And they add more time on for. So a lot of people don't want that. They want what they call max out. But when you max out, you have nothing coming to you. Okay. Yeah. You get a bus ticket. So now they don't have the resources with family. They don't have, some of them just don't have family.
Yeah.
So what do you think they're going to do with that other $7? They're going to buy a sandwich, but they're going to the crack house where they know it's shelter and they could at least start their whole, cycle of they got some place to sleep. Okay. They know the people there. Now they can start stealing or doing whatever they have to do to support their habit. Mm-hmm. And so if we get them right away, and that's partly what we do, we get them right from, we work with judges that sometimes opposed to even giving them into a halfway house or whatever, they'll remand their sentence and give them to the rehab place. There's a guy named Danny, Danny Lansdale. He runs Standing United. And he's been doing this. He was formerly on drugs himself, but he has, for the last 15 years, he has helped so many men and women. If you've got a problem with drugs, he's going to get you into rehab. I mean, he'll come to and send somebody to Ohio to bring you to LA.
Like, there you go.
He's the man. He's the man. So those type of resources and helping these women, and sometimes, and I do life coaching too, and sometimes just getting reacclimated into families. Mm-hmm. Some of these women haven't seen their children for 20 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Their children were babies and no one was bringing them to see them. And so there's sometimes resentment. The child feels abandoned, even though much of it was beyond the mother's circumstances. But just the whole idea of taking a mother out of the house, I mean, your mother's the first teacher. Yeah. Like she's the trainer, and so all type of things, parenting classes, getting them free healthcare things. And so that's what our donations go to. And even my book, mm-hmm. The donations for my book, it goes to We Too Matter. I donate all the money that I get from my book. I give it to We Too Matter. Because women matter.
Yes,
they matter.
Do. Yep. Well, I made my contribution this weekend. So.
Oh my God! Yep. Did you? Thank you.
I did. I made my contribution this weekend.
That's amazing. Thank you.
I want to remind people Mother's Day is coming up. Go to we2matter.org. Find out how you can donate. Not only just buying your book, Dr. Ali, but also make your contribution. Mother's Day, like I said, is coming up.
Thank you.
So
I was not expecting that. Thank you. Yep. Thank you so much.
Yep. So go out there and get the book and read about Dr. Ali's life and support the cause, because again, like it says on the website, 80% of women in prison right now are mothers, yet they are sent hundreds of miles from their children, making it impossible to visit. Also, over the last 30 years, the number of women in prison has skyrocketed by 700%.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That is crazy. So, and again, I applaud you, Dr. Ali, for the work you're doing right now. And we want to get people motivated and mobilized and get behind this cause. So,
thank you. I applaud you for having me on. I really do, because this helps. It gets the word out there. And the smallest thing, like just a kind word to these women,
Hmm.
send them a Mother's Day card. It means so much to them.
Yeah.
It's a little gesture, but for them, it's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Rita Ali, I appreciate you being with us today on True Crime Tuesday.
Thank you. It was amazing.
It was,
I enjoyed it.
it was our pleasure. And please, if anything we can do or continue to support, we'd love to do it. So.
Well, Tim, I'm going to hold you to that.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
I'm going to definitely have you show up at one of our events.
Absolutely.
When we have Mike host something. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would love to.
Thank you so much.
Would love to. Folks, we're going to lighten it up just a little bit here. We're going to bring in Beer City Bruiser. It's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time of the week you're all looking forward to here on True Crime Tuesday. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And in order to do Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals, we need to bring in a co-host. We bring in the co-host with the most, the BCB, the big cuddly bear himself, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
I'm doing fantastic, Cruiser. How are you doing on this fine day?
I'm a little perplexed.
Perplexed, huh?
Yeah, the Easter Bunny came, but he hid all my eggs out in the snow. And I still can't find it. We still have like 2.5 feet of snow outside. And
It'll be a pleasant surprise when the spring thaw comes.
I guess so. It's the middle.
Unless they sprout into other Easter bunnies.
Yeah, it's the middle of April, and the snow's not going to go away till July. I'm convinced. We had a nice day out yesterday. By gosh, it got to almost 60, and you would think there shouldn't be snow on the ground, but everywhere you look in my neighborhood, there's still significant snow on the ground.
It was 60 here, and there was no snow. When I landed, it was 60, and there was no snow.
Yeah.
But I got home, and the Easter bunny sadly didn't hide my Easter basket. He just left candy on the table for me.
Oh, well, that's nice. That's convenient. Yeah.
There was some candy for me, some dog cookies for Talia and Ziggy, and Mrs. Bruiser had herself a nice little what we were talking about the other day that was stolen, Cadbury egg.
Oh, yes, Cadbury eggs. Yeah.
Yep, which prompted me to tell her the story that you and I covered a couple weeks ago.
Oh,
She
yeah.
went, huh? I'm like, yep, we covered it.
Yeah, you got to cover that. That's for sure. Big Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today. Lots of interesting story. We're going to end the day with some good news, Bruiser.
Okay.
Good litigation news. Thank God the courts are fighting for our right to certain coffee shops. That's all I got to say. Thank God we live in America. That's all I have to say. We'll get to that here in just a bit.
Hopefully we don't need a code to use the bathroom at Starbucks, because I stopped at a Starbucks the other day and I had to go. And it wasn't a number 1. It was a number 2.
Oh, my. Well, hopefully it wasn't the number 2 on the menu. It was,
no, and I had to go. And I ran up and I kept pushing on the door and asked for the code, and they gave me the code, and it was a photo finish. It was a photo finish.
My goodness. Well, I'm sure they loved you when you left that Starbucks. That's for sure. We also have some Florida Man stories today. So Florida Man didn't disappoint this week.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
He never really does. He's keeping up.
Well, there's times they take a little bit of a break, you know. They like.
Oh, yeah, they enjoy, when they're rebuilding from hurricanes, yeah.
Yeah. They have their breaks from here, there, and everywhere. We're going to start though with Mamas Don't Let Your Grandparents Grow Up to Be Bank Robbers segment. I know it's tough out there. The economy is tough, and you've got to supplement your Social Security somehow. But please don't let your parents and grandparents go out there and be bank robbers. We just ask that you keep them at home.
I cannot picture my mom or dad robbing a bank.
We'll go to Pleasant Hill, Missouri here. By the way, you're returning from Kansas this past weekend.
I flew into Kansas City, Missouri, and wrestled in Junction City, Kansas. So I'm right in that area that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, you might have seen this lady fleeing past you as you were in Kansas this weekend. A 78-year-old convicted bank robber was arrested this week for allegedly robbing a bank and stealing. According to Pleasant Hill Police, on you weren't around at this time, but April 5th at approximately 3:20 p.m., officers responded to Goppert Bank for a robbery in progress. Now, officers received descriptions about the suspect and their vehicle, and police located the car traveling south on Highway 5. Police then conducted a traffic stop and took the suspect into custody. Sounds good already, right? Like,
was it a rascal? Is that what the police chase was on? She was on a rascal.
Well, I'll tell you about it in a second here, Bruiser. Now, it's so far so good. Sounds like,
so far it's a normal bank robbery story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garden variety bank robbery, right? Officers obtained a search warrant for the car and reportedly located evidence linking the woman to the bank robbery. Now, on Thursday, April 6th, the Pleasant Hill Police Department said that Bonnie Gooch, which is an old-timey bank robbery name if I've ever heard of one.
Bonnie Gooch, huh?
Bonnie Gooch was charged by the Cass County Prosecutor's Office with stealing or attempted stealing from a financial institution in connection with the robbery at Goppert Bank. She was booked into the Cass County Jail and being held on $25,000 bond.
Well, there goes all of her SSI right there.
That's right. Now, here's the kicker, Bruiser.
Okay.
You ready for this? This isn't Gooch's first brush with the law in terms of bank robberies.
What?
This wasn't.
Well, yeah, I guess there's no 401k in bank robbery, is there?
No, this wasn't Ms. Gooch's first rodeo.
Do you ever think in your life you'd be saying Ms. Gooch's first rodeo?
No, and that does sound like one of those videos you saw in the back of the video store probably 30 years ago.
Exactly, where you had to show your ID to go back there.
Yeah, Ms. Gooch's first rodeo, and you're like, I don't know, which one should I grab? And your buddy's like, just grab anything off the back wall and let's just get the hell out of here, right? It was probably Ms. Gooch's first rodeo, and you went, God, this sucks. This is the most horrible video I've ever seen in my life. And he's like, just shut up and enjoy it. Don't look me in the eye. Anyways, so this isn't Gooch's first brush with the law in terms of bank robberies. According to the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, on January 23rd, 2020, Lee Summit Police were called to a home where a man told officers his mother, Gooch, was off her rocker and that she told him she planned on robbing a bank.
Okay, well, at least he's being a concerned citizen.
Yeah. The same day.
Most people worry their parents are going and, senile and have dementia. Nope, this guy calls the police.
Yeah, he's like, hey, mom's lost it. She's going to rob a bank. And the police are like, well, we can't arrest her till she does it. So good luck, sir. The same day, police received a call from Bank of the West. A witness told officers a woman passed a note to the teller demanding, oh, this is cute, $3,000.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's good. She's not taking them all for she just needed something.
It's the cutest little note ever. Just
it's probably to cover her meds.
Yeah, well, probably. I mean, that barely covers insulin these days. Yeah. The teller gave her the money, which officers later found in her car, along with the note. Court records show Gooch pleaded guilty in 2021 to stealing and received a suspended sentence. So they let grandma off easy the first time.
Yeah, at the time she's 76? Let her go. She's 78 now.
She's 78 now. Yeah, I had to do the math. I'm sorry. Math, not my strong suit at the time we're recording. Yeah. She was 76 at the time, so she was pretty spry.
Yeah, judge's like, you know what? At least she's getting out and get some fresh air.
Yep.
Hopefully the slap on the wrist, she'll learn her lesson.
We'll give her an ankle bracelet. She can run around the house a little bit. She can work it off. She can do her own landscaping rather than break rocks over there at Sing Sing. And,
Yeah, and she's already got one of those buttons you push that when you fall and you can't get up. So adding an ankle bracelet's just another accessory. That's right. I'm
going to show you a picture of Bonnie Gooch real quick here, Bruiser. There you go. There's the offending grandma.
Literally, this is a dated reference, which, Tim, I know you'll get.
Okay.
She looks like the Where's the Beef lady.
Yeah, like Clara Peller.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Clara Peller, busting banks. That's exactly what she looks like. So yeah, poor Bonnie Gooch, but she was arrested again for knocking over another bank. But this time, God love her. She at least got I think she at least got more than 3,000 this time. Maybe she didn't.
That's good.
Yeah.
Now we just need to create signs to say free the Gooch.
Free the Gooch. Free the Gooch. Dear God. That just sounds horrible.
I know. That's why I said it.
Free the gooch. Sometimes you're right on it. Sometimes you make a mistake.
Yeah.
You ever had those days?
Yes, that happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes you have all the best intentions, but you just are a little to the left and you make a mistake and it's kind of a big one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and sometimes you just have to have your hat in hand, say, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. Can we make it up to you? Maybe a Starbucks gift card? I hear Bruiser's fond of taking a shit there. I don't know. I mean, you know, there's little things to apologize, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, right. I had to apologize to the Starbucks employees after I left.
Right. This one was kind of a big whoopsie.
Okay. What's the big whoopsie?
Well, FBI agents handcuffed and interrogated a Delta pilot after a wrong hotel room was broken into in a training mishap. It can happen.
That is a big whoopsie.
Yeah.
Like, sorry. Here you go. You're on your way.
I think the people who suffered the most, the people who had to fly with that Delta pilot the next day.
Hey, is that, you know what? I flew American, but my flight was delayed when I flew out. So maybe that's why the FBI is questioning my pilot for no particular reason whatsoever.
They're just waking him up in the middle of the night, shaking him down. Although you never know.
Hey, you got a free hat out of it.
Yeah, you get a free pair of wings or whatever. They just come by and pin them on you. Sorry, I was up all night. They were waterboarding me in the bathroom, right in the sink. A Boston hotel guest was awakened in the middle of the night by federal agents who barged into his room, handcuffed him, threw him into the shower. See, waterboarding.
Yep, they're waterboarding him.
And interrogated him for an hour before they realized they had entered the wrong room. It took an hour, Bruiser.
Yeah. An hour later, somebody looked at the warrant and went, oh, we're in 201. We're supposed to be in 101.
I'm so
bad.
Terribly sorry.
Here's a free booby inspector shirt. We'll see you later.
Do you suppose they have that in their kit?
I think so, just because I wouldn't be mad if the FBI gave me that.
They have the FBI apology kit, which is like a free appetizer at Chili's in the airport in a booby inspector t-shirt. Yes. Here you go. It's our fault, really. So sorry.
We don't read very well.
Comprehension wasn't our tops at Quantico. FBI and Department of Defense agents stormed the innocent man's room at the Revere Hotel instead of his correct room, where a person role-playing as a suspect as part of a training exercise was staying. Whoopsie.
What do you think the role-playing guy was doing for that hour? Like, man, these guys are really late. Like, yeah. Where are they?
I wonder where the heck they went. It's time for lunch. The agents banged on the door of room 1505, where the confused hotel guest, a Delta Airlines pilot, was sleeping around 10 p.m. on Tuesday night and demanded to be let in.
Okay.
Yikes.
Okay.
They pushed into the room, handcuffed the pilot, and reportedly put him in the shower, according to the station. Then the agents interrogated the man, said to be in his 30s, for nearly an hour until they realized they had the wrong guy. The federal agents uncuffed the man and apologized after about 45 minutes of intense interrogation. I would pay good money to see that video.
Yeah, I would too, especially when they find out they're in the wrong room.
Right. The agents with the FBI Boston division were assisting the Department of Defense in conducting a training exercise at the hotel to simulate a situation their personnel might encounter in a deployed environment, the FBI said in a statement to the local station, with big red cheeks of embarrassment just spilling over.
I'm surprised their response wasn't, our bad.
Yep, sorry, never happen again. Nothing to see here. Look along. Just move along. Based on inaccurate information, they were mistakenly sent to the wrong room and detained an individual, not the intended role player, the statement continued. Thankfully, nobody was injured, like the pilot. Hotel security was
physically injured, but man, that's a traumatic experience. You're sound asleep, getting ready because you got a flight in the morning. They're pounding on your door, and next thing you know, you're just being forced into a shower and questioned about something you have no idea about.
And then he admitted to it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did it. You'll find the gerbil in my back quarters. Hotel security was notified, and police and EMS were called to the scene. The pilot refused medical attention, according to the police report obtained by WBZ. The pilot declined to comment on his horrifying experience when the outlet reached him by phone. Well, would you comment on it if you were aroused by the FBI? I wouldn't. I wouldn't either. I'd want it to be as quiet as possible. He said he needed to speak to his employer before speaking to the media. I suppose to have an official statement.
I guess, but he wasn't really necessarily a Delta on Delta's time. Well, yeah, because they pay for the hotel room. So yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Yeah,
he's on company time when he stays over. Yeah. Delta said in a statement it was looking into reports of an alleged incident in Boston that may involve Delta people. The FBI Boston division is reviewing the shocking case of mistaken identity with the Department of Defense for further action as deemed inappropriate. So there you be. There's that story right there.
That unit's going to be the butt of everybody's jokes for the next year.
Yes, indeed. Let's see here. We're going to go on to our next story here. I'm just switching an order here because I saw that story and thought that's too good. We're going to move that to the end of the segment here. A Michigan teen, here we go. Speaking of police, a Michigan teen is accused of posing as a Detroit cop and pulling over an officer. Sometimes,
got you.
Yeah, sometimes karma is just too sweet, isn't it? We go to Oakland County, Michigan. An 18-year-old man was arrested and charged after allegedly impersonating a police officer and pulling over a real cop earlier this week. According to a news release from the Oakland County Sheriff's Office on Monday, April 3rd, shortly after 11 p.m., deputies responded to a report of a possible police impersonator near M59 and Crooks Road in Rochester Hills. A suspect in a silver BMW, later identified as Christian Katan Mansour, reportedly tried to pull over an off-duty Waterford Township police officer. Oh, God.
Hi, I'm Officer Mansour. Oh, hi, I'm Officer so-and-so. Hey, that's a good badge. Where'd you get yours? I got mine at the thrift store.
The sheriff's office said the off-duty officer recounted that Mansour passed her near, I believe it's DeKindre and Hamlin Road, and she followed him to confront him. She reportedly identified herself as a real police officer, and Mansour told her he was an officer with the 12th precinct of the Detroit Police Department. When she asked him for identification, he allegedly told her he needed to get back into his car to grab it. Yeah. Mansour then reportedly returned to his car and fled the scene. According to the sheriff's office, the off-duty officer followed him into a trailer park where all good cops are known to hide out and keep their lair.
Exactly. That's their secret Batcave.
But she couldn't find him. Deputies eventually located Mansour, removing the license plate from the BMW and placing them on another BMW that he owned. Way to go, Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this guy watches one too many spy movies. Yeah.
Mansour was arrested following a brief foot chase and arraigned on April 5th for impersonating a public officer. He was reportedly released after posting only a $5,000 bond.
That's it, huh? And they let him go?
I guess. In a statement, Sheriff Michael Bouchard said, individuals that pose as police officers present a threat to the public and undermine legitimate law enforcement. Thankfully, this individual was caught and is being held accountable for this incident. Bouchard also said, but if you had a similar incident with this described automobile or this pictured individual, please contact us. So I got to tell you, if this guy pulls up on you, doesn't he look like Baby New Year with a beard? Yeah.
He looks like he just got done failing an audition for a boy band.
Yeah. Baby New Year pulls up to you and says, I'm a police officer. Do you actually buy his shtick?
No.
No, I don't either.
No.
Not in the slightest.
I go, you're not a cop. You're as much of a cop as I am as a doctor.
Yeah. And I'm a proctologist. Why don't you bend over and take one from me? Yeah. Some people, when they call in a tip to police, will give a description.
Yes.
Okay. Some people, it's just a brief description. I don't know. He's about 5'10". He's got dark hair. He's wearing such and such clothes. They'll ask maybe for, what's the skin complexion? What were they wearing? Things like that. So this person, however, totally got it wrong.
Okay.
Let me tell you how wrong they got it. Be very specific, folks. If you're going to give a description to the police, just don't mistake somebody who's carrying a long rifle in their hand
Yeah.
From a hunter to a Star Wars character. There's a big difference from cosplayer to actual deer hunter. Okay?
Wait a minute. There's a difference between a deer hunter and Boba Fett? Come on.
Yes, you got it. You got it. Okay, Bruiser. We're going to, and this happened in Boston. So we're going to Boston. There's a big difference between Whitey Bulger and Boba Fett. I'm just saying. This was not the droid they were looking for, Bruiser. It turns out that Boston Transit Police were responding to reports of a person armed with a long rifle. Yes, you heard it right. A person armed with a long rifle. And were stunned when it turned out to be a person in Star Wars cosplay. This, of course, you knew it had to be somebody elderly because it happened around 6 p.m.
And they've never seen Star Wars a day in their life.
No. They haven't even seen Star Trek. Around 6 p.m., multiple units from the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority Transit Police responded to the alarming report at Boston's Back Bay Station. All right. When they arrived, they found a person dressed as Star Wars iconic Mandalorian bounty hunter Boba Fett holding a replica firearm. This thing looks like a super soaker. Officers conversed with the individual and the scene was safe. MBTA Transit Police tweeted, "Oh, thank God." The agency posted a picture of the person whose face characteristically is hidden behind a Boba Fett mask while holding up the replica gun in question. The annual Anime Boston Convention was taking place that weekend at the nearby Heinz Convention Center. Now, folks,
the police should have known that it was a crank call when they said, "Well, what's your name?" and they said Han Solo. Like right away, that why is Han Solo calling in to report Boba Fett's in the area?
Now you see this guy walking around.
That's a great costume.
That's a great Boba Fett costume, isn't it?
Yeah, he nailed that.
Yeah, but he's walking around a transit station, and some old biddy goes, "Oh my God! It's a guy with a long rifle, and I think he's looking for, I don't know, Han Solo. I gotta save Han."
Or they were so old and then their dementia state thought they're actually part of the rebellion.
Yes, yep.
And called the police saying, "Hey, we have to let Luke and Leia know Boba Fett's here. They gotta hide Han. He's here.
He's coming. He's coming for him. That's for sure. I gotta help. Now the person you should be, if you're old, looking out for is this Louisiana woman in her next story.
Okay.
Louisiana woman allegedly beat her 85-year-old grandmother with a back scratcher and a picture frame. Now that's the real danger.
Someone took that Facebook post of "you only have the weapon to your left to fight. What are you fighting with?" too seriously.
yeah, exactly. And this one looks deranged. I'll tell you that. An 85-year-old woman was hospitalized this past week after her 20-year-old granddaughter, it's always the 20-year-olds, no, I'm kidding, allegedly beat her with several objects and vandalized her home following an argument. According to the Evangeline Parish Sheriff's Office, on Tuesday, April 4th, deputies went to a home on the 500 block of Weibel Road after receiving a call about an elderly woman suffering from several injuries. She was transported to the ICU in critical but stable condition.
Wow.
Now, this was a big, heavy back scratcher. It wasn't one of those little light wooden ones you buy like at the drugstore that you can snap like a twig.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could probably hit a baseball with this one.
Jeez.
Yeah. I need to find out where you get that back scratcher.
Yeah, I need an industrial one like that. I've broken my last two.
I have the metal ones. Have you ever seen the metal?
Oh, I got a metal one now because Mrs. Bruce was getting mad because I was breaking the other ones.
Yeah. Investigators learned Cecilia Ann Lee went to her grandmother's house on the night of April 4th, and the two women got into an argument which turned physical. The sheriff's office alleges Lee struck the victim multiple times in her head, torso, arms, and hands with a heavy-duty wooden back scratcher and picture frame. It's not the same thing, by the way. No, you don't frame your picture in a back scratcher. They just
or put your back scratcher in a picture frame.
Right. After that, Lee allegedly damaged her grandmother's phone in order to prevent her from calling for help and vandalized the home. Lee then fell asleep on a couch.
All that aggression, takes it out of you.
She's just such a little cherub, isn't she? Yeah. Deputies arrested Lee, because I can't talk today, on charges of attempted murder, aggravated battery of the infirm, cruelty to the infirm, false imprisonment, and criminal damage to property. What do you think her bond is set at?
Well, the one guy for impersonating a cop was $5,000, so it's got to be more than that. So I'm going with $12,000.
A little higher.
Let's go with 17.5.
Little higher.
20,000.
Here's why I love Louisiana.
Okay.
Her bond, $1,067,500.
That's an expensive back scratcher.
you put your hands on grandma, you're going in the clink for good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow. They really want you to respect your elders.
That's right. You don't put your hands on grandma. So this one right here, who looks like, I don't know what she looks like. She looks like she's the biggest dork in the world. That's all.
Yeah. She looks like, you know what? That's Boba Fett. That's the girl that was cosplaying as Boba Fett.
But yeah, Dorcas Delecti is going up the river for a while.
Yeah.
And she's got $1 million bond to prove it. So there you go. Let's see here. We're getting down to the last of Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals here. We got just a few stories left. Let's get into some Florida man stories, shall we?
Yes, please. Let's see what they're up to.
All right, let's do it. This next Florida man story is an ironic one. Normally, Florida man loves his guns.
Oh, they love them.
And he loves to shoot off his guns.
That they do.
What he doesn't love is when he shoots off his guns and shoots himself.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
Well,
we've had a couple stories where they've shot themselves.
That can get kind of arduous when you shoot yourself. Florida man gets a lengthy prison term for shooting himself.
Oh, you got... Okay.
That's assault, Bruiser.
On yourself?
Yeah.
That's like roofing yourself, then masturbating, and it's date rape.
Well, if you had a good... I was going to say if you had a good time, but no, you wouldn't charge yourself. I don't know. I don't know what I meant by that. A Florida man who fired his weapon and shot himself with it during at least one burglary was recently sentenced to spend decades in prison.
Decades for shooting himself.
Yes, decades. Well, at least he apprehended himself.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah.
He's using the reward money to buy a lawyer.
I guess. Justin McCall was sentenced to a lengthy prison term for a series of burglaries, in part because he shot himself in the leg. 28-year-old Justin McCall was found guilty on multiple burglary charges by retired Judge Paul A. Rasmussen, who took senior status in the Sunshine State's First Circuit Judicial Court over a decade ago. The judge sentenced the defendant to 20 years in prison on March 6th. State Attorney Ginger Bowden Madden said in a Monday press release. Now, McCall was charged with 13 separate crimes in relation to a series of automobile burglaries that occurred between late October of 2022 and early January 2023, that according to the state attorney's office. In addition to stealing miscellaneous items from the vehicles he burglarized, McCall stole a firearm from an unsecured vehicle. McCall then proceeded to burglarize another vehicle with the stolen firearm in hand. While rummaging through that vehicle, McCall accidentally discharged a firearm and shot himself in the leg, which resulted in McCall pleading for help from the very person whose vehicle he had just burglarized. Is he stupid? Probably.
Big time.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's that.
Here's the lesson, folks. You commit a bunch of robberies, don't shoot yourself because you will get caught.
That's right. Now, the firearm theft that resulted in his injury, however, was not the defendant's first, according to law enforcement. At the time of his arrest for the burglaries, he was on probation for grand theft of a firearm. He was also out on bond for 2 additional burglaries when he fired the unlucky shot that finally found him out. I sound like Casey Kasem. But it wasn't that bullet that eventually got him. At the scene of the shooting, responding deputies with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office discovered McCall had stolen clothing from some of the vehicles in question and was wearing those clothes at the time.
Well, hey, he didn't have a backpack, so hey, just put it on.
I guess.
Sir, why do you have 6 shirts on? You know.
Because it's cold.
It's Florida, man.
Yeah. McCall shot himself on January 4th, 2023. He was found by Osco deputies with a gunshot wound to the leg, according to the sheriff's office. He was transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. An ensuing investigation conducted along with the Crestview Police Department found that the defendant had been captured by several home video surveillance cameras breaking into vehicles in the area. A homeowner on Zach Avenue said she discovered someone had broken into her car and taken her purse. That, according to the Osco, I'm abbreviating here. Later, while watching a neighbor's surveillance video, she saw McCall on camera wearing her white Sperry boots, which had been in her home's garage. Well, it takes all kinds. The defendant is expected to serve a full 20 years in the Florida Department of Corrections under the terms of the state's 1020 life statute, which mandates strict and lengthy prison sentences for felonies committed with the use of a gun. In this case, the defendant shooting himself in the leg appears to have been found by the judge to have triggered the statute. All right. McCall has 13 felony guilty convictions since 2012 in Florida, including 6 for burglary and 4 for grand theft. There you go.
This guy just, yeah. When doing a crime spree, sometimes you shoot yourself.
He triggered his own lengthy prison sentence by shooting himself.
Yep.
You gotta love Florida.
This is the epitome of dumb crime, stupid criminal.
Yep. Oh, but there's more, Bruiser. There's so much more coming out of Florida. I can't wait to tell you kids about this one. The headline alone. I'm just going to let you marinate on the headline alone. Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Naked, greased up Florida man accused of breaking into 2 homes and jumping in a pool.
You know it's going to be a good story when you had a naked, greased up man.
That's right. Deputies believe the suspect was under the influence of unknown substances.
Oh, no. I think he was stone cold sober. Who doesn't like to get all lubed up and naked and run through and jump in pools?
That's right. A man was arrested Friday morning in DeBary after he allegedly broke into 2 homes, then tried to evade deputies by jumping in a swimming pool and onto a trampoline, all while naked, because doing it with clothes on just isn't the same.
Got to be careful doing naked trampoline, though. There's stuff hanging and you could get it caught.
Yeah, especially if the boys are flopping up and down, up and down, up and down. That hurts after a while.
Yeah, it does.
There's a reason we contain the package. Contain the package.
The reason I don't throw drop kicks.
Speaking of containing the package, we want to thank Manscaped for coming on board.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
I used mine and it was amazing.
Yeah.
I feel fresh.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
I feel lighter.
I do.
Yeah. We want to thank Manscaped for coming on board. Manscaped, by the way, there's we'll have details here at the end of the show about Manscaped and how you can get a hold of Manscaped products.
And you can feel fresh like we did so that you don't have to be lubed up to jump in a pool.
That's right. Yeah. It's amazing stuff. Deputies say they responded around 2 a.m. to a report of a burglary at home on High Banks Road and encountered the suspect identified as 34-year-old Blake Talkman. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office said Talkman smashed out a window to break into one home, then left and broke into another house. Deputies say they encountered Talkman at the second house. Body-worn camera video released by the Sheriff's Office shows Talkman running from the deputy, jumping into a pool, then climbing out of the pool and jumping onto a trampoline.
He's making an obstacle course for this cop. He's making this cop earn it.
I'll bet you a 20 spot. He wasn't on any weed whatsoever.
Oh, yeah, I know.
No.
And I'll bet you any money the cop just walked around the pool and walked around the trampoline and arrested him.
That's right. The Sheriff's Office said it took 4 deputies to get custody of Talkman.
That's some 4. PCP right there.
Yeah. Who kicked or hit the deputies, or he was riding the snake. He was on the meth.
He was on something.
Yeah. One of the deputies was cut on the arm during a pursuit, according to officials. In addition to being naked, the Sheriff's Office said Talkman was covered in wheel-bearing grease, peppermint oil, and blood.
That's so he could slide through the doggy door if he had to break into these houses.
I guess. They believe he may have been under the influence of an unknown substance or substances. They said it took 3 medical professionals to secure him on a stretcher for evaluation and treatment. Talkman faces charges of 2 counts of occupied burglary, 3 counts of battery on a law enforcement officer, 2 counts of criminal mischief, and resisting arrest with violence. Now that is a story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's, if you're getting arrested, that's how you get arrested.
That's right. Or is it a story? Or do we have one more Florida man story here that could trump that one?
I don't know. That was a good one. It's going to have to be real good to trump that one.
Wait.
We had motor oil. We had peppermint oil. We had a pool. We had trampolines. We had drugs. The only thing we were missing was a taser.
Oh, I have something better, my friend.
All right. I'm ready. Let's do this.
This man, remember earlier we were talking about switching out license plates and getting caught?
Yeah.
This man got caught by his vanity plate.
Was he an ass man?
Kinda. Are you ready for this? A phony vanity plate trips up a motorcyclist. We go to, I believe this is a New Jersey man riding a motorcycle with a phony license plate. It read "Bend Over," and Florida cops. Yep, you're right. Bend over, BENDOVER, bend over. And it led Florida cops on a high-speed chase that ended with the suspect crashing his ride. Police say that 26-year-old Caleb Concepcion was spotted Sunday evening operating a motorcycle that had the fake New Jersey tag, "Bend Over." Mm-hmm.
You're going to fake a tag. Don't make it where people want to look at it. You want to make it as inconspicuous as possible.
That's right. When a Clearwater Police Department officer approached Concepcion on foot at a red light, the Garden State resident looked over at me and restarted the bike. Mm-hmm. Concepcion allegedly ignored stop police orders and sped through a steady red light, putting the surrounding drivers in danger, according to the criminal complaint. Moments after fleeing the police, Concepcion was involved in a motorcycle crash after which he was transported for treatment at a local hospital. After being read his Miranda rights, Concepcion, who works in car sales, it says in quotes, opted to remain silent. Concepcion was charged with a felony fleeing court for high-speed wanton disregard while trying to elude cops. Jail records also indicate that Concepcion, who is being held in the county lockup, is a fugitive in connection with a parole violation count in his home state. What do you want to bet it's pressing fake plates?
Well, now he gets to bend over in prison.
Yes, that's right. He gets to take that plate to prison and go, here you go.
Yeah.
Bend over. 2 stories left here on Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals.
Okay.
The next one I'm going to forewarn may be a trigger alert.
Okay.
It's not for the weak at heart when it comes to animals.
Oh, yes. I don't like seeing animals hurt.
Yeah. This one's either alarming if you're an animal lover, or you may fall over laughing, one or the other. I've told you before about my sheer rage when it comes to people putting outfits on chickens.
Yes. Yes, you have it. I agree with you 100%.
Right.
They don't need tuxedos.
One man has decided he's going to, if people won't stop putting outfits on chickens, he's going to take out the chickens in general.
Well, don't do that. It's not their fault.
I know. He's scaring chickens to death.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
No,
I
know.
Can't fight back.
It's not. It has nothing to do with outfits on chickens. That's the only lead-in I had for the chicken story.
Okay.
A man is jailed for scaring his neighbor's chickens to death. That's just foul, Bruiser. It's just foul.
It's real foul. What a nugget.
A Chinese man was sentenced to prison on Tuesday for sneaking onto his neighbor's property to scare thousands of the man's chickens to death as part of a deranged revenge scheme.
What revenge? Okay, I got to hear how this pans out.
Yeah. The man, who was only identified by his surname, which is Gu, was convicted of Gu.
Okay.
Was convicted of using a flashlight to terrify the birds. That's all it took, a flashlight. Gu was convicted of using a flashlight to terrify the birds, causing them to kill one another on their owner's Hunan province grounds. This according to Chinese Daily.
So they were just, those chickens were pissed off. They started attacking each other.
Yes. Yep. The flashing light caused the panic-stricken flock to crowd into a corner of the coop this is so sad. where they trampled over one another in an effort to escape.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
The first time Gu trespassed, 500 of the chickens were trampled to death, and he was later caught by police. Gu was later caught by police and ordered to pay his neighbor, identified as Zhang, 3,000, I believe it's yuan, or $436, which only infuriated the crazed man. He returned and carried out the scheme a second time.
Well, if it didn't work the first time, it's not going to work the second time there, bro.
Well, it did work. It killed chickens.
Well, it'll work, but you're still going to jail.
Yeah. Authorities say a total of 1,100 chickens were killed in the scheme. My God.
I hope he has to pay for each chicken, too.
Well, $436 ain't a lot of money.
No, it's not.
No. Gu was reportedly retaliating amidst an ongoing feud with the chicken owner that began in April of 2022 when Gu chopped down Zhang's trees without permission or notification.
We can't do that. It's on my property.
Yeah. The Hengyang court ruled that Gu intentionally caused property loss to Zhang, resulting in a monetary loss of 13,840 yuan, or $2,015.
Yet he still only charged $436.
That was the first time, the first round of chickens.
Okay.
I'm thinking he's going to have to pay for the second round of chickens.
Yeah.
The court sentenced him to 6 months in prison with 1 year of probation. So that's all the guy got.
Yeah, well, it is China, and they don't really care about the animals. I mean, they'll eat anything.
Well, I don't know about that. I wouldn't throw that one out there, Bruiser, and stand by it, but you know.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the last story of it. The last story, okay, isn't necessarily a not safe for work story, but let's just say it comes close.
Okay.
You wouldn't take your kids here for coffee and a scone. Put it that way. I wouldn't take the kids here to put it this way. You're not sure what kind of milk you're getting in your coffee.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Look at Bruiser. Disgruntled employee, huh?
It turns out there is a God after all, Bruiser.
Okay.
As bikini baristas have won their $500,000 settlement after a years-long legal battle.
Good for them. I've heard they were in a legal battle.
That's right. We all were behind them.
Yes, and in front of them, and on the side, and then the other side.
Yep, just measuring up things, so to speak. Bikini baristas have scored a win in Washington State after a long legal battle on acceptable attire. The City Council of Everett, a city north of Seattle, voted in this week in favor of a $500,000 settlement with local business owner Giovanna Edge and her employees at the Hillbilly Hotties coffee stand.
That's a great name.
It is.
That's a great name. I don't picture it in Seattle, but that's still a great name.
I think they're a franchise.
They might be. Yeah. I know when I was up there for when Ring of Honor went up there, we went through the bikini coffee.
Did you?
Yeah, a car full of wrestlers went hot chicks in bikinis give us coffee. Yeah, we're going.
You're like, are you kidding me?
Like, why wouldn't we go? Two guys didn't even drink coffee.
We don't even like the stuff. Do you have hot chocolate? Edge and employees Natalie Bjerke, Madison Hernandez, Leah Humphrey, Amelia Powell, and Liberty Ziska filed a legal complaint that city ordinances requiring quick service employees to wear at least a tank top and shorts violated their First Amendment rights, that according to the Daily Herald. That seems stupid. It's only coffee. The issue how many people go make coffee in their underwear? I mean,
well, I do in the morning. But like when our forefathers put these laws into effect, I don't think anywhere in their minds they thought, someday hot chicks are going to wear bikinis and serve coffee.
Well, they weren't thinking that far ahead, I suppose. The issue began in 2009 when local police were forced to deal with a spate of complaints that various lewd coffee stands in Everett were the scene of inappropriate conduct, they claim including, quote, sex shows and prostitution.
Okay, the prostitution could be a problem because, like, if you order a venti, coffee, you shouldn't get a lap dance with it.
So when somebody asks you to blow the head off your venti cappuccino, they really mean the foam, not
yeah. Do you think there was code for that? That's why somebody's like, "Oh, there's prostitution there."
Maybe.
Like the champagne in the champagne room.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been to one of these.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I just ordered a regular coffee. So.
Oh, okay.
And I was in the back seat.
Well, there you go. Was that code for something?
We went through the drive-through, so it was only a drive-through. You couldn't walk inside.
Is that code for something? 4 individuals were arrested following investigations into the establishments, and law enforcement believed the problem had been solved. But by 2023, arrests were still being made on charges of prostitution and exploitation of a minor.
Oh,
ooh, that's rough. Yeah.
Don't hire under 18-year-olds to work in your bikini bar.
No,
your bikini coffee shop.
Yeah, you want them older than 18. That's for sure.
Yep.
The city attempted to prevent sexual exploitation of workers by instituting the tank top and shorts dress requirements in 2017. Those requirements were deemed unconstitutional in October.
How does that not sexualize employees? Have they never been to a Hooters?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where their uniform literally is a tank top and shorts?
And short shorts, yeah. Under the newly amended ordinance, baristas will be allowed to continue working in minimal clothing, but they will be subject to the city's standing lewd conduct laws. If an establishment receives 2 or more violations, it can be shut down. This has always been about protecting the best interests of our community and preventing exploitation, Mayor Cassie Franklin said. She continued, the amendments to the ordinance we are agreeing to enact will provide us with a new tool for addressing issues at individual stands while also providing support to employees that are being coerced or exploited in any way.
Well, I'm pretty sure if you apply to work at a bikini coffee shop, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah,
you know what the uniform is.
I think they know what they're doing. Yeah. I think they know what they're in for. So yeah, that's the story there. That's the story there. But,
I wonder if I could get a job at one of those. I'd wear a bikini.
I cringe to think of what you look like in a bikini serving coffee.
Well, that would help. Hey, I'm not sexualizing the uniform.
You're just wearing it. It'd be like if you take Cocaine Bear and put a bikini on him and go out and make him hand out coffee. That's what it would kind of look like. I mean,
which Cocaine Bear is streaming this week, and I can't wait. I'm going to watch so much of it.
Where's it streaming?
I haven't seen where it was. Just in streaming it. I think it's on Peacock.
Is it?
I think it was on Peacock. I think I was watching wrestling when the advertisement came through.
Really?
Yeah. April 14th.
April 14th. Huh. All right. You don't say. Little bit of well, I've been anxious to see it too. So there you go.
I can't wait. We
mentioned earlier Manscaped. Manscaped is now on the program, and you want to get your deal there. Speaking of hairy guys who probably need to shave before they put on a bikini.
See, that's why I'd be ready for the bikini. I use my Manscaped.
That's right. We want to thank Manscaped. They have the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit, which is out there. I used the Beard Hedger this week.
I did too.
Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah. Nice and hedged up. Oh, yeah. Among other things, they have the new skin safe technology, which is out there, which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs. They've also got the brand new Weed Whacker 2.0 ear and nose hair trimmer, which I also used this weekend too.
Me too. Yeah. I'm wearing headphones, so you can't see my ears, but they're clean.
That's right. That's right. To save on all this stuff, get 20% off and free shipping with the code DADVILLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code DADVILLE at manscaped.com. I'm telling you, folks, go out and save. You're getting your tax return here soon.
Yes.
Use it at manscaped.com. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code DADVILLE at manscaped.com. And take advantage of that code.
It's worth it, 100%. I've been using Manscaped for years now.
Yeah.
And when they became a sponsor, I remember how excited I was when you told me we got them as a sponsor. And this new beard trimmer they got is amazing.
It is.
The settings they got are great. I've never had such a good shave. Yeah. So like I said, I'm ready to do my new career in bikini coffee because of Manscaped. I'm silky smooth all over.
Thanks for leaving that disturbing image in my head. Appreciate that. Tomorrow on the show, folks, we'll be doing supernatural news where we'll have more disturbing images for you, I'm sure. And we've got much, much more for you. I think we even have a ParaShare story or two for you.
All right.
We
Good
just
to hear
may.
from the listeners.
We just may. And then Thursday on the program, we are talking tarot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we've got some psychic and tarot stuff we're talking with. Our guest on Thursday is a tarot reader by the name of Sterling Moon. She's also a psychic. We will be talking on Thursday about Sterling's new book. And she's got a new book out there from Llewellyn Press. So we'll talk to her about that new book. We'll talk about tarot readings. We'll also talk about patching into your psychic ability.
Nice.
It's all coming up this week on Darkness Radio.
I can't wait. Good week.
Yeah. So there you go. Bruiser, where are you going to be this weekend?
I'm actually in Chicago, Illinois. It's Arlington Heights, Illinois, actually. And I'm in a Chicago street fight. I won my championship last week. I retained it, and I'm defending it in a street fight.
There you go. So if you're in the Chicagoland area, get your tickets. Go see Bruiser this weekend, and let them know you heard him right here on Darkness Radio and on True Crime Tuesday.
Yeah, I love hearing from the listeners. In fact, when I was in Junction City, I talked to 3 listeners, and they were excellent, and they're terrified of AI.
As it should be. We'll talk about, we've got some interesting AI stories tomorrow as well, so tune in for that. There's some absolute nightmare fuel tomorrow on Darkness Radio. For Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Join us tomorrow for Darkness Radio, and thank you again for joining us today on the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday.